They called him a monster before he ever spoke his first word. But what if they were wrong? What if the Nine Tails was split differently, and the part sealed inside Naruto wasn't just power? It was memory, malice, and something even more dangerous: wisdom. This is the story of a boy and the ancient shadow within him, of pain endured and a bond no one saw coming. This is What If Naruto Had Yin Kurama. If you're new here, welcome to Quietly. If you've been waiting, thank you for your patience, fam. Subscribe if you're here for more than hype. Suggest your ideas in the comments down below, and let the story begin.
The night sky over Konoha shattered with a roar that seemed to tear the very fabric of reality. A massive nine-tailed fox materialized above the village, each of its tails a force of nature capable of leveling mountains. The beast's eyes, crimson pools of ancient malice, surveyed the village with contempt. But something was wrong. The Nine Tails wasn't acting of its own volition. A spiral-masked man stood in the shadows, controlling the Bijuu's actions through a powerful Jinjutsu. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, appeared in a yellow flash atop the Hokage monument, his white cloak billowing in the chakra-charged air. His wife Kushina had just given birth to their son, Naruto, when a masked man had extracted the Nine Tails from her seal. Now, as he stared at the fox's rampage, Minato made the calculations only a Hokage could make. The Nine Tails chakra is too powerful to be sealed entirely within a newborn, he muttered, his mind racing through sealing formulations. But if I separate its yin and yang halves? The battle that followed was a blur of teleportation jutsu, Rasengan impacts, and desperate gambits. Minato managed to break the masked man's control over the Nine Tails, but the damage was done. The beast continued its rampage, and Minato knew there was only one option left. On a clearing outside the village, protected by a hastily erected barrier, Kushina's chakra chains held the thrashing Nine Tails immobile. Blood dripped from her mouth as she struggled to maintain the jutsu despite her weakened state. Minato, you know what must be done, she whispered, her eyes fixed on their newborn son sleeping on the ceremonial altar. Minato nodded grimly. The Reaper Death Seal. I'll use it to split the Nine Tails and seal its yin half into Naruto. The yin half? Kushina questioned, surprise evident despite her pain. Not the yang. Minato's hands flew through seals as he explained. The yang half is raw power, emotional, overwhelming force. Our son will already have enough challenges controlling a Bijuu's chakra. But the yin half? His eyes softened momentarily. The yin half contains the fox's intelligence, wisdom, and spiritual energy. If Naruto can someday reach an understanding with it. A partnership, Kushina finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. You're gambling on our son's heart being strong enough to change even the darkest part of the Nine Tails. The massive fox snarled, its crimson eyes widening as it realized Minato's intentions. You fool, you would entrust your child with my hatred? The yin half carries all my accumulated malice across centuries. It also carries your wisdom, Minato countered, completing the final seal. Behind him, the spectral form of the Shinigami materialized. And someday my son will need both. The Nine Tails thrashed violently against Kushina's chains. I'll devour his soul from within. Your gamble will fail, fourth Hokage. With a terrible cry, the Shinigami thrust its arm through Minato, reaching for the Nine Tails. The massive chakra entity was split into two equal halves, one burning bright orange like flame, the other a deeper, almost purple-tinged crimson. The darker energy, the yin half, was pulled toward the infant Naruto. In their final moments, Kushina and Minato moved as one, intercepting a desperate claw strike from the Nine Tails aimed at their child. Impaled, but resolute, they completed the 8-trigram seal together. Naruto, Kushina whispered, blood trickling from her lips as she gazed at her son one last time. Grow strong, be kind, and someday, understand the fox's pain too. As the seal locked into place, the YIN Ninetales consciousness experienced a moment of terrible clarity. It wasn't just being sealed, it was being separated from its other half, incomplete for the first time in its long existence. Its last sight before the darkness claimed it was of Minato and Kushina's faces, not filled with hatred, but with a desperate hope. "We believe in you, Naruto," Minato whispered as his life ebbed away. "And someday, maybe you'll help the Ninetales believe too." The seal closed, a spiral pattern forming on the infant's stomach. As Minato and Kushina collapsed, their lives forfeit to the Reaper death seal. The young half of the Ninetales was sealed within Minato, disappearing as his body faded into the Shinigami's embrace. In the silence that followed, only the cries of a newborn could be heard. A child who now carried within him the darkest, most intelligent half of the most powerful bijou in existence. The villagers called him monster, demon, foxbrat. Naruto Uzumaki, age 7, had long since learned to plaster a wide grin on his face in response. He'd throw back a prank or a loud declaration about becoming Hokage someday. But in the quiet moments, like now, swinging alone in the academy playground after hours, the mask slipped. "Why do they hate me?" he whispered to himself, scuffing his sandals in the dirt. "What did I ever do to them?" Something stirred in the back of his mind, a presence he'd occasionally felt but never understood. This time, however, the dark sensation intensified, like something was responding to his pain. A wave of dizziness swept over him. The playground blurred, and suddenly Naruto found himself standing in ankle-deep water in a vast, dimly lit corridor. Pipes ran along the ceiling, some glowing with blue light, others pulsing with an ominous red energy. "Hello," Naruto called, his voice echoing strangely. "Is anyone there?" A deep, rumbling chuckle reverberated through the space, raising goosebumps on Naruto's arms. Drawn by curiosity stronger than fear, he followed the sound down the corridor until he reached an enormous chamber. Before him stood a colossal gate, held shut by a small paper seal with the kanji for seal written upon it. Beyond the bars, something shifted in the shadows, something massive. Two enormous eyes opened in the darkness, crimson with slitted pupils that fixed on Naruto with ancient malice. So, a voice growled, deep and resonant with power. "My jailer finally comes to visit." Naruto stumbled backward, falling into the shallow water. Who are you? What is this place?" A massive face emerged from the shadows, a fox with dark red-orange fur and long ears. Its mouth curled into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of gleaming teeth. "I'm a nine-tailed fox, the Kyubi no Kitsune," the creature announced. "And you, Naruto Uzumaki, are my prison." Naruto's eyes widened. "The Nine Tails? But the fourth Hokage killed you." A bitter laugh echoed through the chamber. "Is that what they told you?" "No, child. I cannot be killed. I was sealed, my yin half, at least, within you on the day of your birth. That's why the villagers look at you with such hatred. They see me when they look at you." The revelation hit Naruto like a physical blow. Suddenly, everything made sense. The cold stares, the whispers, the isolation. "So it's your fault," Naruto shouted, anger replacing fear as he jumped to his feet. "You're the reason everyone hates me." The fox's eyes narrowed. "My fault? I didn't ask to be ripped from my previous Jinchuriki, controlled by masked Uchiha, and then split in half and sealed within an infant. We are both victims of circumstance, child." "Liar," Naruto cried, tears streaming down his face. "You attacked the village. You killed people." While under the control of a Genjutsu, the fox countered, its voice taking on a calculating tone. "Tell me, Naruto, have you ever wondered why no one told you about me? Why they left you alone, ignorant of the burden you carry?" Naruto fell silent, the question striking a chord. "They fear what we might become together," the fox continued, moving closer to the bars. "They fear that I might influence you, or that you might use my power. So they isolated you, thinking it's safer to keep you weak and ignorant." "That's not true," Naruto whispered, but doubt had crept into his voice. "Isn't it? Who has ever truly helped you? Who has ever acknowledged your existence?" The fox's voice became almost gentle, seductive in its logic. "I, at least, cannot ignore you. We are bound together until your death. I know your pain, Naruto. I have felt your loneliness, your determination. In all of Konoha, I alone truly understand you. Naruto stared up at the massive creature, conflicted emotions warring within him. What? What should I call you? Do you have a name? Something flickered in the fox's eyes. Surprise, perhaps. You may call me Kyubi. That's not a name, Naruto countered. That's just what you are. The fox fell silent, studying the small human before it. After a long moment, it spoke again. My name is Kurama, but you have not earned the right to use it yet. Naruto nodded, accepting this. I'm gonna be Hokage someday, you know? The greatest Hokage ever. Kurama's laughter filled the chamber, but it held a different quality now, more amused than malicious. Such ambition from one so small. And how do you plan to achieve this dream when you can barely perform a simple clone jutsu? Naruto's face flushed with embarrassment. I'll figure it out. I never give up. That's my ninja way. Admirable, if foolish, Kurama replied. But what if I told you that I could help you? That together, we could make the village acknowledge your existence. Naruto's eyes widened. You'd help me? For my own reasons, Kurama clarified. Your weakness reflects poorly on me as well. And I find the irony appealing. The power they fear becoming the strength that protects them. The boy's expression turned suspicious. What do you want in return? Another flicker of surprise crossed Kurama's features. Perhaps this child wasn't quite as naive as he appeared. Respect, the fox finally said. Acknowledgement that I am not merely a tool for your use, but a being with my own will and dignity. And perhaps, someday, more freedom than this cage allows. Naruto considered this, his young face serious in contemplation. I won't let you hurt anyone. I'm not asking to, Kurama replied smoothly. Merely for the dignity of not being treated as a mindless weapon. The boy stared at the massive fox for a long moment before nodding slowly. Okay, but this is a partnership. You help me, I help you. And we do things my way. No hurting innocent people. Kurama's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. We shall see whose way proves more effective. Naruto Uzumaki. But for now, we have an agreement. As Naruto's consciousness began to fade from the mindscape, returning to the playground, Kurama's voice followed him. Come back tomorrow. We have much to discuss. In the days that followed, Naruto returned to his mindscape frequently, usually at night when loneliness pressed most heavily upon him. Kurama was not kind. The fox was calculating, sometimes cruel in its observations, and ruthlessly honest. But unlike the villagers, Kurama actually talked to him, listened to him, challenged him. Their early conversations were contentious. Kurama would mock Naruto's dream, point out flaws in his reasoning, and attempt to push him toward a more cynical worldview. But Naruto pushed back with his own unique form of stubborn optimism. Why you care so much about people who hate you? Kurama demanded during one exchange. They've given you nothing but pain. Old man Hokage doesn't hate me, Naruto countered. Iruka-sensei is starting to acknowledge me too. And anyway, hating everyone back just proves them right about me. You're naive. Maybe, Naruto shrugged. But I'd rather be naive than bitter. And I think you've been bitter for a really long time, haven't you? The question caught Kurama off guard. You know nothing of my existence, child. I know what it's like to be alone, Naruto said quietly. To have people look at you and only see something they hate. I think, maybe you and I aren't so different. For once, the ancient fox had no retort. As months passed, their relationship evolved. Kurama began offering subtle advice during Naruto's academy training, pointing out flaws in his stance or suggesting alternative approaches to chakra control. The fox was particularly adept at Genjutsu theory, though Naruto struggled to apply the concepts. Your chakra control is abysmal, Kurama commented during one training session. Thanks for the news flash, Naruto grumbled, trying again to form a proper clone. It's because you have too much chakra and too little control, the fox explained. Try this. Instead of pushing chakra out, imagine drawing it inward first, compressing it like a spring, then releasing it with precision. Naruto's next attempt produced a clone that, while still sickly looking, at least had the right number of limbs. See? Not completely hopeless, Kurama remarked, and Naruto grinned at what passed for praise from the fox. The turning point in their relationship came shortly before Naruto's graduation exam. After another failed attempt, Naruto sat alone on his apartment roof, fighting back tears of frustration. I'm never going to pass, he whispered. I'll never be a ninja, let alone Hokage. In his mindscape, Kurama studied the boy thoughtfully. After centuries of hatred, the fox had expected to manipulate this child easily. to twist him toward darkness. Instead, he found himself reluctantly interested in Naruto's development. The boy's resilience was remarkable, his empathy unsettling to a being composed largely of malice. "You're overthinking it," Kurama finally said. "Your problem isn't lack of power, it's the opposite. You're trying to trickle chakra through a floodgate. So what do I do?" Naruto asked, genuine desperation in his voice. Kurama hesitated, then made a decision. "I will show you a different technique. One better suited to your absurd chakra reserves. It's called the Shadow Clone Jutsu." Naruto's eyes widened. "You teach me a jutsu? Really? Don't make me regret it," the fox growled. "Now listen carefully." When Mizuki tricked Naruto into stealing the scroll of sealing, Kurama immediately sensed deception. "He's using you," the fox warned. "This isn't a special test. It's treason." Naruto, hidden in the forest with the scroll, froze. But Mizuki-sensei said, "Think, Naruto." Kurama cut in. "Why would a special graduation test involve stealing from the Hokage? And why would only you need to take it?" Realization dawned on Naruto's face, followed by anger. "He's setting me up." "Indeed," Kurama agreed. "But perhaps we can turn this to our advantage. Learn what you can from the scroll quickly. Then prepare a surprise for your treacherous teacher." When Iruka found Naruto, the boy immediately explained the situation. Together, they set a trap for Mizuki, culminating in Naruto's first use of the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Not just a few clones, but hundreds, filling the forest clearing with identical orange-clad figures. As Mizuki fell unconscious beneath the assault of countless fists, Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind with something almost like approval. "Perhaps there's hope for you yet, Naruto Uzumaki." That night, as Naruto lay in bed, proudly wearing his new forehead protector, he entered his mindscape one more time. "Hey, Kurama," he said, approaching the cage without fear. "Thanks for helping me today." The fox regarded him with those ancient eyes. "I merely protected my investment. If you die, I'll be sealed away for years until I reform." Naruto smiled, seeing through the excuse. "Sure, whatever you say, but still thanks." As he turned to leave, Kurama called after him. "Naruto, your father would have been proud today." The boy froze, then slowly turned back. "You knew my father?" Kurama's eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Another conversation for another time. You need rest. Tomorrow you begin your journey as a shinobi." Naruto wanted to press for more information, but he could sense Kurama withdrawing, the mental connection fading. With a mixture of frustration and anticipation, he returned to consciousness, determined that someday he would learn everything the fox knew about his parents. Team 7 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto's whoop of joy at being paired with his crush was matched only by Sakura's groan of dismay at being separated from Sasuke. The last Uchiha himself merely continued staring impassively forward, seemingly indifferent to the team assignments. "Your Jonin instructor will be Kakashi Hatake," Iruka continued, moving down his list. In Naruto's mind, Kurama stirred with interest. "Kakashi of the Sharingan," the fox mused. "The copy ninja. Interesting choice. You know him?" Naruto thought back, having learned to communicate with Kurama silently. "I know of him," Kurama replied. "He was your father's student." Naruto nearly fell out of his chair. Kurama had been dropping these tantalizing hints about his parents for weeks now, never giving complete information, but offering just enough to keep Naruto burning with curiosity. "Pay attention," Kurama admonished. "First impressions matter with a Jonin like Kakashi." 3 hours later, after all the other teams had left with their instructors, Naruto's patience was wearing thin. Even Sakura had stopped pacing and resigned herself to waiting, while Sasuke hadn't moved from his brooding position by the window. "This is ridiculous," Naruto muttered. "What kind of Jonin is 3 hours late?" "One who's testing you already," Kurama observed. "How you handle waiting reveals much about your character." Naruto considered this, then stood up. "Hey guys, what do you think our sensei is trying to learn by making us wait like this?" Sakura looked up, surprised by the thoughtful question. "Maybe he's testing our patience?" Sasuke glanced over with mild interest. "We're seeing how we interact when left alone." Naruto nodded, walking to the board and grabbing an eraser. "Well, let's show him something interesting then. I say he deserves a little welcome gift for being so late." Sakura's immediate instinct was to protest, but curiosity won out. "What are you planning?" With a mischievous grin, Naruto outlined a simple but effective prank involving the eraser, the door, and a tripwire fashioned from ninja wire in his pouch. Surprisingly, both Sakura and Sasuke contributed refinements to the plan. When Kakashi finally arrived, he found himself not only hit by the falling eraser, but also momentarily ensnared by the tripwire, causing him to stumble forward in a most undignified manner. The three Genin's reactions were telling. Naruto laughed openly. Sakura tried to hide her giggle behind a look of horror, and Sasuke smirked slightly before resuming his neutral expression. Dusting chalk from his silver hair, Kakashi eye-smiled at them. "My first impression of you, you're interesting. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes." As they filed out, Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind. "He's not taking you seriously yet, but you've caught his attention. That's a start. On the roof." After brief introductions revealed little beyond what was already known, Kakashi explained the real Genin test, a survival exercise with a 66% failure rate. "Be at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 5 a.m. Oh, and don't eat breakfast. You'll throw up." With that ominous warning and a cheerful eye smile, Kakashi vanished in a swirl of leaves. "He's lying about the breakfast," Kurama immediately stated. "It's a trick to weaken you before the test." "Why would he do that?" Naruto wondered. "To see if you can think for yourselves or blindly follow orders," the fox replied. "You should tell your teammates." Naruto hesitated. "Sasuke won't believe me, and Sakura only believes Sasuke." "Then you have your first test as a team," Kurama observed. "If you can't communicate effectively now, you'll fail tomorrow regardless." Gathering his courage, Naruto approached his teammates before they could leave. "Hey guys, I think we should eat breakfast tomorrow, no matter what Kakashi-sensei said." Sakura frowned. "But he specifically told us not to." "Yeah, but think about it," Naruto pressed. "Why would a survival test be better on an empty stomach? When have you ever been stronger while hungry?" Sasuke paused, considering this logic. He's not wrong. A shinobi needs fuel for combat. But what if we do throw up? Sakura worried. "Then we throw up," Naruto shrugged. "Still better than fighting on empty." After a moment, Sasuke nodded. "Eat something light, but nutritious. And don't be late." With that, he walked away. Sakura looked between the retreating Uchiha and Naruto, clearly torn. I guess that makes sense," she admitted reluctantly, before hurrying after Sasuke. "Not bad," Kurama commented. "Now let's see what other advantages we can secure before tomorrow." The next morning, Team 7 assembled at the training ground, each having eaten a light breakfast despite their sensei's warning. When Kakashi finally arrived, 3 hours late, he was met with 3 irritated but alert Genin. "Sorry I'm late. A black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way around." "Liar!" Naruto and Sakura shouted in unison. Kakashi eye-smiled, then produced 2 small bells. "Your task is simple. Get these bells from me before noon. Whoever doesn't get a bell gets sent back to the academy." Naruto felt Kurama's immediate attention. "It's a trick," the fox stated. "Think, Naruto. Has there ever been a 2-person Genin team?" Realization dawned on Naruto's face. This was a test of teamwork. But how could he convince the others? As Kakashi called "begin," the 3 Genin scattered into the surrounding forest, except Naruto, who stood his ground with a confident grin. "You know, you're a bit odd compared to the others," Kakashi observed, pulling out an orange book. "Maybe," Naruto agreed. "But I think I've figured out your test, Kakashi-sensei." The Jonin raised an eyebrow. "Oh, do tell. It's about teamwork, isn't it? The bells are just to divide us." Naruto crossed his arms. "But there's a problem with your plan. I don't abandon my comrades. So either we all pass, or none of us do." Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly in surprise, before his expression turned calculating. "Interesting theory, but can you convince your teammates?" Sasuke seems only interested in his own goals, and Sakura is focused entirely on Sasuke. "Watch me," Naruto replied with determination. Then, forming a familiar cross-shaped hand seal, he called out, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." 20 Naruto clones appeared, immediately scattering into the forest to find his teammates, while the original engaged Kakashi in a hopeless but distracting battle. The Jonin was clearly holding back, but Naruto noticed something interesting. Kurama's presence was enhancing his perception, allowing him to track Kakashi's movements slightly better than he should have been able to. It wasn't enough to land a hit, but it was enough to not get completely embarrassed. "Your taijutsu has improved since the academy reports," Kakashi noted, dodging another punch. "But you're still telegraphing your moves." "Keep them talking," Kurama advised. "Your clones need time." In the forest, Naruto's clones found both teammates. Convincing Sakura was relatively easy once he explained the logic. No three-man teams had ever been reduced to two. Sasuke was more difficult, but a clone managed to appeal to his pragmatism. Even if you don't like working with us, you need us for this test, the clone argued. After we pass, you can go back to being a lone wolf if you want. Meanwhile, the original Naruto was wearing down, Kakashi's casual counters taking their toll. Just as he was about to collapse, Sasuke's fireball jutsu erupted from the tree line, forcing Kakashi to leap away, directly into the path of Sakura's thrown kunai. The Jonin deflected them easily, but had to drop his book to do so. What followed was 3 minutes of surprisingly coordinated attacks. While none came close to getting the bells, the Jonin demonstrated basic teamwork. Sasuke's fired jutsu herding Kakashi towards Sakura's traps, while Naruto's clones provided constant pressure and distraction. Finally, as noon approached, Kakashi called a halt. The 3 exhausted Jonin stood before him, breathing heavily but united. "Time's up," Kakashi announced. "None of you got a bell, but we figured out the real test," Naruto declared. "It's about teamwork, not the bells." Kakashi's eye crinkled. "Is that so? Then tell me, who goes back to the academy?" The rules stated only 2 could pass. The 3 Jonin exchanged glances. Then, to everyone's surprise, Sasuke spoke. "Either we all pass together, or we all fail together." Sakura nodded firmly. "We're Team 7. All of us." Naruto grinned. What they said, a long moment passed as Kakashi studied them. Then, his serious expression melted into an eye smile. "Well then, you pass." The explanation that followed about teamwork and the memorial stone reinforced what they had already figured out. As they left the training ground, officially recognized as Team 7, Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind. "Not bad for your first day as a Jonin," the fox admitted. "But this is just the beginning. If you truly wish to become Hokage, you have much still to learn." Naruto grinned inwardly. "Then I guess you'll just have to keep teaching me, won't you?" The fox's rumbling chuckle was answer enough. The mission to the Land of Waves began as a simple C-rank escort. Precisely the kind of mission Naruto had been hoping for after weeks of chasing lost cats and pulling weeds. But when 2 Chunin-level missing Nin attacked their group on the road, the true nature of the mission was revealed. "You should have told us the truth," Kakashi admonished Tizuna after defeating the Demon Brothers. "This is at least a B-rank mission now, possibly higher." As the bridge builder explained his country's dire situation under Gado's control, Naruto felt Kurama's alertness spike. "This mission will likely involve more combat," the fox observed. "Are you prepared for that reality, Naruto?" The boy swallowed hard but nodded internally. "I won't back down. These people need our help." "Then you may need to draw on more of my chakra than you have before," Kurama stated. "But be careful. My energy can be intoxicating." Team 7's decision to continue the mission led them to an encounter with Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist. When a Jonin-level missing Nin trapped Kakashi in a water prison, leaving the Jonin to face him alone, Naruto felt genuine fear for the first time. "We need a plan," he whispered to his teammates as they stood protectively in front of Tizuna. "We need to free Kakashi-sensei," Sasuke corrected. "None of us can take on a Jonin." "I have an idea," Naruto replied, quickly outlining a strategy involving his shadow clones, Sasuke's fire jutsu, and a disguised windmill shuriken. Kurama's voice cut through his thoughts. "You'll need more than that. Request some of my chakra, just a small amount." "Ow!" Naruto thought back. "Imagine reaching toward me in your mind. I'll do the rest." As Naruto and Sasuke executed their plan, with Naruto creating a diversion of shadow clones, while Sasuke attacked with a disguised shuriken, Naruto mentally reached toward the cage within his mindscape. Immediately, he felt a surge of power, darker and more potent than his own chakra, flow into his system. His senses sharpened dramatically. He could track Zabuza's water clone's movements with newfound clarity, allowing his own clones to last longer in the fight. When Sasuke's Shuriken Gambit forced Zabuza to release Kakashi, Naruto felt a surge of triumph. The battle that followed between the 2 Jonin was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. When it ended with Zabuza's apparent death at the hands of Akiri Hunter Nin, Naruto felt Kurama's immediate suspicion. "That Hunter Nin is an accomplice," the fox stated flatly. "Real Hunter Nin dispose of bodies on the spot." Naruto relayed this insight to Kakashi, who was already reaching the same conclusion. The Jonin's surprised glance at Naruto spoke volumes. "You're right," Kakashi confirmed, swaying slightly from chakra exhaustion, which means Zabuza is likely still alive and will face him again once he recovers. During the week that followed at Tezuna's house, Team 7 trained intensively for the inevitable rematch. The tree-climbing exercise Kakashi assigned proved particularly challenging for Naruto, despite his massive chakra reserves, or perhaps because of them. "You're still using too much chakra," Kurama observed after another failed attempt sent Naruto tumbling to the ground. "Your control is improving, but your focus wavers." "I'm trying," Naruto grumbled, brushing dirt from his jumpsuit. "Try this," the fox suggested. "Instead of focusing on the tree, focus on the boundary between your chakra and the tree's surface. Imagine it as a thin membrane. Too little pressure and you slip, too much and it ruptures." The analogy clicked for Naruto. His next attempt carried him several feet higher before he lost control. "Better," Kurama acknowledged. Again, by the end of the week, both Naruto and Sasuke had mastered the exercise, though Sakura had completed it on her first try, a fact that Naruto found both impressive and frustrating. The night before their anticipated confrontation with Zabuza, Naruto entered his mindscape to speak with Kurama directly. "I might need more of your chakra tomorrow," he stated, standing before the massive gate. Kurama studied him thoughtfully. "You're becoming dependent on my power." "Not dependent," Naruto countered, "but I'd be stupid not to use every advantage I have when my friends' lives are at stake." The fox's eyes narrowed. "And what will you offer in return?" Naruto considered this. Their relationship had evolved beyond their initial agreement, but Kurama still occasionally tested the boundaries. "What do you want?" he asked directly. Kurama's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "More access to your senses. I tire of experiencing the world only when you actively engage with me." Naruto frowned. "You want to see through my eyes all the time and hear through your ears. Taste your ramen. Feel the wind," Kurama elaborated. "I've been imprisoned for decades. Naruto, my existence is limited." The request gave Naruto pause. It seemed reasonable, but he sensed implications he didn't fully understand. "You won't be able to control me, right?" he clarified. "The seal prevents that," Kurama assured him. "I would merely be a passenger with a better view." After a moment's consideration, Naruto nodded. "All right, but in exchange, I want more information about my parents. The real stuff, not just hints." Kurama's eyes gleamed. "Agreed. But after this mission, focus on survival first." The battle on the bridge the next day tested Team 7 to their limits. While Kakashi engaged Zabuza, Sasuke and Naruto found themselves trapped within Haku's Crystal Ice Mirror's jutsu. Despite their best efforts, the masked nin's speed was overwhelming. When Sasuke fell, his body pierced by multiple Senbon and apparently lifeless, something inside Naruto snapped. Rage and grief exploded within him, and he reached instinctively for Kurama's power. This time, the fox didn't merely offer a trickle of chakra. A torrent of red energy surged through Naruto's system, transforming him. His wounds healed instantly, his nails lengthened into claws, and his eyes turned crimson with slitted pupils. "Don't lose yourself, Naruto," Kurama cautioned, his voice sounding distant beneath the roar of power. "This much chakra can overwhelm your consciousness if you're not careful." But Naruto was already charging, his enhanced speed allowing him to track Haku's movements. With a feral roar, he shattered one of the ice mirrors with a single punch, then caught Haku's arm as the nin attempted to move to another mirror. The mask cracked under Naruto's next blow, revealing the face of the kind person he'd met in the forest days earlier. The shock of recognition momentarily broke through his rage. "You're that person from the forest," Naruto gasped, Kurama's chakra receding slightly as his anger faltered. Haku's sad smile was answer enough. What followed was not a battle, but a conversation about purpose, precious people, and the tools of shinobi. When Haku sensed Zabuza in danger and asked for death, Naruto couldn't bring himself to deliver the killing blow. Instead, Haku used the last of his strength to intercept Kakashi's lightning blade, sacrificing himself for his master. The tragedy that unfolded, Zabuza's initial callousness, Naruto's impassioned speech about Haku's devotion, and Zabuza's ultimate redemption as he cut down Gato at the cost of his own life, left a profound impact on Team 7. As they stood on the completed bridge weeks later, ready to return to Konoha. Naruto gazed out at the ocean, lost in thought. "You handled yourself well," Kurama commented, "though your control of my chakra needs work." "I felt like I was drowning in it," Naruto admitted internally. "Like I might lose myself." "That is the risk," the fox acknowledged. "My chakra responds to negative emotions, particularly anger and hatred. The more you feel, the more my power will try to consume you. Then I'll just have to get better at controlling both," Naruto decided. Kurama's rumbling chuckle echoed in his mind. Always so determined. "Very well, Naruto. When we return to Konoha, we'll begin working on channeling my chakra more effectively. You've earned that much." As Team 7 walked across the Great Naruto Bridge toward home, the bond between boy and fox had grown stronger, forged in the fires of their first true battle together. The Chunin Exams arrived with little warning. Kakashi's casual announcement that he'd nominated Team 7 caught his students by surprise, though each had different reactions. Sasuke saw it as an opportunity to test his strength. Sakura worried about their readiness. And Naruto felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension, amplified by Kurama's immediate interest. The Chunin Exams. The fox mused as Naruto walked home that evening. An opportunity to display your growth, and perhaps learn more about the other village's Jinchuriki. Other Jinchuriki? Naruto questioned, startled. "There are others like me?" "8 others," Kurama confirmed. "Though few will be as fortunate in their relationship with their bijou as you are with me." The subtle acknowledgement of their bond made Naruto smile. Over the months since the Wave mission, his connection with Kurama had deepened. True to his word, the fox had begun teaching Naruto to channel small amounts of his chakra more effectively, focusing on enhancement of senses and physical attributes rather than the overwhelming cloak of power he'd experienced against Haku. "Will I be able to recognize them?" Naruto asked. "Perhaps," Kurama replied. "They often carry a similar burden in their eyes, and I can sense my siblings' chakra if they're near." The first day of the exam brought an unexpected encounter outside the examination room. A confrontation with Team 9, Konoha's previous year's rookies. Rock Lee's challenge to Sasuke was eye-opening, demonstrating that there were Genin far beyond their current abilities. "That boy has no ability to use ninjutsu or jinjutsu," Kurama observed as Lee effortlessly defeated Sasuke. "Yet his taijutsu is exceptional. Remember this, Naruto, specialization can overcome natural talent." Inside the examination room, Naruto reunited with the other rookie teams and met Kabuto Yakushi, a genin who had failed the exam multiple times. When Kabuto offered information on other participants via his ninja info cards, Naruto felt Kurama's immediate suspicion. "Be wary of that one," the fox warned. "His chakra feels wrong, tainted." Acting on this instinct, Naruto maintained a polite distance from Kabuto, even as the others gathered around to request information on participants like Gaara of the Sand and Rock Lee. The first exam, a written test designed to encourage cheating, presented a unique challenge. Naruto stared at the advanced questions in dismay until Kurama's voice cut through his panic. "These questions are beyond genin level," the fox observed. "The real test must be something else." Naruto discreetly scanned the room, noting how others were gathering information. Sasuke using a Sharingan, Hinata offering to let him peek at her answers, others using various techniques to cheat without being caught. "It's about information gathering," Naruto realized. "We're supposed to cheat without getting caught." "Indeed," Kurama agreed. "Though in your case, there's another option." "What's that?" "The final question. I suspect it's the true test, and these questions are merely a prelude." Trusting Kurama's insight, Naruto chose to wait for the final question rather than risk cheating poorly. When Ibiki finally revealed the nature of the 10th question, a choice between risking permanent genin status or withdrawing, Naruto felt certainty settle over him. Standing abruptly, he slammed his hand on the desk. "Don't underestimate me. I don't quit and I don't run. Even if I get stuck as a genin for the rest of my life, I'll still become Hokage someday." His declaration steadied the resolve of those wavering, leading to more participants passing than Ibiki had anticipated. When the examiner revealed the true purpose of the test, to assess their ability to handle pressure and gather intelligence covertly, Naruto felt Kurama's approval. "Well done," the fox acknowledged. "Though it was your determination rather than your intellect that carried you through." "Hey, I figure out the real purpose of the test," Naruto protested. "After I pointed you in the right direction," Kurama countered dryly. The second exam in the Forest of Death took a dark turn almost immediately. After an unsettling encounter with the proctor, Anko Mitarashi, Team 7 entered the forest with a Heaven Scroll, needing to acquire an Earth Scroll within 5 days. Their first night, as Sasuke and Sakura slept, Naruto entered his mindscape to consult with Kurama. Something feels wrong about this exam, he confided, standing before the massive gate. That Gaara guy gives me the creeps, and some of the other teams seem way too powerful for Chunin. Kurama's eyes gleamed in the darkness. Your instincts are improving. Yes, there's danger here beyond the obvious. The red-headed boy from Suna. He carries my youngest brother, Shikaku, the one-tail. Naruto's eyes widened. He's a Jinchuriki too, but he seems so bloodthirsty. Shikaku has always been the most unstable of my siblings, Kurama explained. And from what I can sense, the seal used on that boy is flawed. Shikaku is likely influencing his mind directly, feeding his bloodlust. Should I try to talk to him? Maybe I could help. No, Kurama interrupted sharply. Not yet. In his current state, he would see any approach as a threat. Keep your distance unless confrontation becomes unavoidable. The next day brought exactly the sort of confrontation Kurama had warned against. Not with Gaara, but with an even more dangerous opponent. A grass ninja with unnatural abilities attacked Team 7, specifically targeting Sasuke. When a ninja's killing intent froze both Sasuke and Sakura in place, Naruto instinctively reached for Kurama's chakra. The surge of power broke him free of the paralysis, allowing him to move his teammates to safety. That's no Chunin, Kurama snarled, his chakra roiling within Naruto. That's Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. He's far beyond your current abilities. We can't just run, Naruto protested. He'll kill us. Then we fight smart, Kurama countered. Use my chakra to enhance your senses and reflexes, but don't reveal the full extent of our connection. Create a distraction and focus on escape, not victory. The battle that followed was hopelessly one-sided despite Naruto's enhanced abilities and Sasuke eventually activating his Sharingan. When Orochimaru slammed a 5-element seal over Naruto's existing seal, temporarily cutting him off from Kurama's chakra, then bit Sasuke's neck to bestow the cursed seal of heaven, Team 7's defeat was complete. Naruto awoke hours later to find Sakura defending an unconscious Sasuke from Sound Ninja. Despite the corrupted seal interfering with his access to Kurama, Naruto joined the fight alongside Rock Lee, who had arrived to help. Together with the timely intervention of Team 10, they managed to drive off the Sound Team. That night, as Sasuke's fever from the cursed seal finally broke, Naruto managed to re-establish a tenuous connection with Kurama. The seal that Snake placed on you is interfering with our connection, the fox explained, his voice sounding distant and distorted. It's designed to disrupt chakra flow and destabilize control. Can we remove it? Naruto asked, struggling to maintain the mental link. Not without help, Kurama replied. You'll need a seal master. Jiraiya or the current Hokage would be capable. Until then, we must minimize chakra usage to avoid further complications. The remainder of the Forest of Death trial passed in a tense blur. Team 7 acquired an Earth Scroll from another team and made it to the central tower within the time limit. But Sasuke's condition remained unstable, and Naruto's connection to Kurama weakened further with each passing day. The preliminary matches to reduce the number of finalists revealed just how high the level of competition was. Sasuke, despite the cursed seal, managed to defeat his opponent using a technique copied from Lee. Sakura fought to a draw with Ino in a battle of wills. And Naruto faced Kiba Inuzuka in a match that tested his resourcefulness. Without easy access to Kurama's chakra, he was forced to rely on his own skills and unpredictability. A combination of shadow clones, transformation techniques, and sheer determination eventually secured his victory, though it was far closer than he would have liked. You're improving, Kurama's faint voice commented afterward. Even without my power, your tactical thinking has evolved. Thanks to your nagging, Naruto thought back with a mental grin. Now we just need to get this extra seal removed before the finals. The 1-month training period before the final round brought an unexpected mentor, Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin and a self-proclaimed super pervert. When Ebisu, Naruto's assigned tutor, was knocked unconscious by Jiraiya's anti-peeping defenses, Naruto found himself demanding training from the Sannin instead. This guy's a legend. Naruto thought skeptically as Jiraiya performed an absurd dance of self-introduction. Don't be fooled by his antics, Kurama warned, his voice still faint but clearer than before. Jiraiya is nearly as powerful as Orochimaru and far more knowledgeable about seals. He may be exactly who we need. Convincing Jiraiya to train him took persistence, but when Naruto demonstrated his ability to access Kurama's chakra, however weakly, the Sannin's demeanor changed completely. "Kid, let me see your stomach," Jiraiya demanded, suddenly serious. When Naruto channeled chakra to reveal the seal, Jiraiya immediately identified the 5-element seal overlaid on the original 8-trigram seal. "Who did this to you?" he asked sharply. "Some creepy guy in the Forest of Death. Kurama says it was Orochimaru." Jiraiya's eyes widened. "Kurama? You know the Nine-Tails name?" Naruto froze, realizing his slip. "Oh yeah? We talk sometimes." "Sometimes," Jiraiya repeated incredulously. "It just volunteered its name?" "Not exactly," Naruto admitted. "We kind of worked up to it." The Sannin's expression was unreadable as he processed this information. Finally, he sighed. "Let me remove that interference seal first. Then we need to have a long talk about your relationship with the Nine-Tails." The removal of Orochimaru's seal was painful but effective. As soon as Jiraiya's 5-pronged strike disrupted the secondary seal, Naruto felt Kurama's presence flood back into his awareness. Finally, the fox growled, relief evident beneath the irritation. That snake seal was like being smothered in mud. The conversation that followed with Jiraiya was tense but productive. The Sannin was clearly concerned about Naruto's communication with Kurama, but became less alarmed as Naruto explained their gradual understanding and partnership. "It's not like he's taking over or anything," Naruto insisted. "We help each other. He gives me advice and sometimes chakra, and I guess I give him company and a window to the outside world." Jiraiya rubbed his forehead. "Kid, you have no idea how unprecedented this is. Jinchuriki usually fight their bijou for control, not chat with them like old friends." "Maybe that's the problem," Naruto suggested. "Maybe if people tried understanding the bijou instead of just using them as weapons, things would be different." Kurama's rumbling chuckle echoed in his mind. "Tell the pervert sage that his former student will be proud of your perspective." When Naruto relayed this message, Jiraiya went completely still. "What did you just say?" "Kurama says your former student will be proud of my perspective." "Why? Who was your student?" Jiraiya studied Naruto for a long moment before sighing deeply. "The 4th Hokage, among others. Minato Namikaze." The training that followed focused on chakra control and summoning. Jiraiya, impressed by Naruto's unusual partnership with Kurama, decided to teach him to summon toads, a technique that required precise chakra control and, for larger summons, significant chakra reserves. "The key is to find the right balance," Jiraiya explained. "Too little chakra and nothing happens. Too much unfocused chakra and you'll get a tadpole." Naruto's initial attempts produced exactly that, tadpoles of varying sizes. Frustrated, he consulted with Kurama. "The issue isn't quantity, but quality," the fox observed. "You're flooding the jutsu with raw chakra instead of focused intent. How do I fix that?" Naruto wondered. "Try drawing on a smaller amount of my chakra, along with yours," Kurama suggested. "My energy has more direction to it. Use it as a framework to shape your own chakra." The technique worked better than expected. Naruto's next attempt produced a small but fully formed toad. By the end of the week, he could consistently summon medium-sized combat toads, and on one occasion, when drawing deeply on Kurama's chakra, he managed to summon Gamabunta, the massive toad chief. Jiraiya watched this progress with a mixture of pride and concern. "You're advancing faster than I expected," he admitted one evening. "But be careful with how much of the Nine-Tails chakra you use. There's a risk of becoming dependent on it." "I know," Naruto interrupted. "Kurama's told me the same thing. That's why we're working on better control rather than just using more power." The Sannin raised an eyebrow. "Kurama, huh? You two really are on friendly terms." Naruto shrugged. He's still grumpy and sarcastic most of the time. "But yeah, we understand each other." As the finals approached, Jiraiya added water walking to Naruto's training regimen and introduced the concept of the Rasengan. Though he made it clear that mastering the 4th Hokage's signature technique would take time beyond what they had before the finals. The day of the final round arrived with tension hanging over Konoha. Security had been increased due to the presence of multiple Kage, including the Kazekage who sat beside the third Hokage in the viewing box. Naruto's match against Neji Hyuga was scheduled first, a fortunate placement that would allow spectators to see his growth without the risk of him being too depleted for a potential invasion. Be cautious, Kurama advised as Naruto stood across from Neji in the arena. The Hyuga's gentle fist can disrupt chakra pathways. If he seals off enough Tenketsu points, even my chakra will have difficulty flowing. Neji's initial attacks confirmed Kurama's warning. His Byakugan allowed him to target Naruto's chakra network with precision, and his early strikes closed several Tenketsu points in Naruto's arms. Use shadow clones to create distance and analyze his pattern, Kurama suggested. The Hyuga fighting style has predictable rotations despite its effectiveness. Following this advice, Naruto created multiple shadow clones to engage Neji from different angles, observing how the Hyuga prodigy responded to various attacks. When Neji used his 8 trigrams 64 palms technique to dispel the clones and strike Naruto directly, closing most of his chakra points, the situation seemed dire. Now would be a good time for some of that chakra, Naruto thought desperately as he lay on the ground, his own chakra network severely restricted. Focus inward, Kurama instructed. My chakra originates from the seal, not your existing pathways. I can force open the blocked Tenketsu from within. The surge of red chakra that followed was controlled but powerful, visibly reopening Naruto's chakra network and startling Neji, who had believed victory was assured. What followed was a battle of ideologies as much as techniques. Neji's fatalistic belief in predetermined destiny clashed with Naruto's unwavering commitment to forging his own path. As they exchanged blows, Neji with his precise, gentle fist, Naruto with shadow clones, and Kurama-enhanced taijutsu. Their conversation touched on deeper issues of fate, choice, and the possibility of change. The match's conclusion came when Naruto feinted with a frontal attack, allowing Neji to trap him in an 8 trigrams palm rotation defensive technique, while secretly burrowing a shadow clone underground. As Neji prepared to deliver a final strike to the stunned Naruto, the clone erupted from beneath him with an uppercut that sent the Hyuga prodigy sprawling. An excellent strategy, Kurama commented as the crowd erupted in cheers. Using his overconfidence against him while conserving our strength for what's to come. You felt it too? Naruto asked internally, waving to the crowd while maintaining a concerned awareness of his surroundings. Yes, there's a tension in the air beyond normal competition, and that Kazekage reeks of serpent. The suspicion proved accurate. During Sasuke's delayed match with Gaara, a Genjutsu swept through the stadium, putting many spectators to sleep. Simultaneously, explosions erupted at Konoha's walls as sand and sound forces launched a coordinated invasion. In the chaos that followed, Naruto found himself pursuing Gaara alongside Sasuke and Sakura. The Sand Jinchuriki, injured by Sasuke's Chidori during their interrupted match, was being escorted away by his siblings. He's losing control, Kurama warned as they followed through the forest. Shikaku is taking advantage of his weakened state. The confrontation that followed was harrowing. Gaara, partially transformed with Shikaku's features manifesting across his body, attacked with sand techniques of incredible power. Sasuke, already depleted from his match and cursed seal flare-ups, soon reached his limit. You need to reach him, Naruto, Kurama advised as Sakura was pinned to a tree by Gaara's sand hand. Not just physically, you need to connect with the human inside the Jinchuriki. Ow! Naruto demanded, dodging another sand attack. The same way you reached me, through understanding his pain. Drawing more heavily on Kurama's chakra than he had before, Naruto engaged the transforming Gaara directly. Each exchange of blows was punctuated by Naruto's attempts to connect, to express understanding of isolation, of being feared, of carrying a burden no child should bear. You're just like me, Naruto shouted as they clashed midair. I know what it's like to be alone, to be seen as nothing but a monster. I am a monster, Gaara roared back, now almost fully transformed into a miniature version of Shikaku. My purpose is to kill, to validate my existence through the death of others. That's Shikaku talking, not you. Naruto countered, summoning Gamabunta to match Gaara's increasing size. You don't have to be what they made you. The battle reached its climax when Naruto, using the last of his and Kurama's combined chakra, leapt from Gamabunta's head to deliver a headbutt directly to Gaara, disrupting the Sanjin Shuriki's technique and sending them both crashing to the forest floor. What followed was not further combat, but a painful crawl toward each other. Two Jinchuriki, depleted and vulnerable, seeing themselves reflected in the other's eyes. Why? Gaara whispered as Naruto inched closer. Why fight so hard for others when they fear and hate you? Because connection is what saved me, Naruto replied, thinking of his bonds with Team 7, with Iruka, with Kurama. Having people to protect, it gives meaning beyond pain. The arrival of Gaara's siblings prevented further conversation, but as they carried their brother away, Gaara's parting words suggested a seed had been planted. Enough. I'm finished. Back in Konoha, the invasion's repulsion came at a terrible cost. The third Hokage had sacrificed himself to stop Orochimaru, using the Reaper Death Seal to disable the resurrected first and second Hokages and steal the use of Orochimaru's arms. As the village mourned during the funeral ceremony, Naruto stood silently, rain mingling with his tears. He died as a shinobi should, Kurama observed, his tone surprisingly respectful. Protecting what he valued on his own terms. Will always be like this? Naruto asked internally. Loss after loss? Such is the reality of the shinobi world. The fox replied, but then added more gently. But perhaps not always. Change must begin somewhere. Why not with you? Despite his grief, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose in those words. The path to becoming Hokage wasn't just about strength or recognition anymore. It was about creating a world where such sacrifices might someday become unnecessary. In the aftermath of the invasion, Konoha found itself in a precarious position, weakened, leaderless, and vulnerable to its enemies. The council's decision to search for Tsunade Senju, one of the legendary Sannin, to become the fifth Hokage, set the stage for Naruto's next journey. When Jiraiya approached him about accompanying the search, Naruto was initially more excited about the prospect of training than the mission itself. You'll finish teaching me the Rasengan, right? He asked eagerly as they left the village gates. If you can handle it, Jiraiya replied with a smirk. It took the fourth Hokage 3 years to develop that jutsu, you know. I bet I can master it faster, Naruto boasted. In his mind, Kurama snorted. Typical human bravado. Though with our combined perspectives, perhaps you can approach it differently than your father did. Naruto nearly tripped over his own feet. My what? The fox's rumbling laughter filled his mindscape. Did I forget to mention that? Yes, Naruto. The fourth Hokage was your father, Minato Namikaze. The shock of this revelation left Naruto speechless, prompting concern from Jiraiya. You okay, kid? You look like you've seen a ghost. The fourth Hokage was my father? Naruto blurted out, unable to contain the bombshell Kurama had so casually dropped. Jiraiya froze mid-step, then slowly turned to face Naruto, his expression unreadable. How did you? Who told you that? Kurama did. Just now. Naruto's mind was racing, connecting dots he'd never seen before. Is it true? Is that why he sealed the nine tails in me? Because I was his son? The Sannin sighed deeply, then guided Naruto to sit on a fallen log just off the road. I was going to tell you when you were older, or at least after you'd mastered more than Nine Tails chakra. But yes, it's true. Minato Namikaze was your father, and Kushina Uzumaki was your mother. My mother too? Naruto whispered, eyes wide. What was she like? Fiery, determined, loud. Jiraiya smiled fondly. A lot like you, actually. She was also the previous Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails before the sealing failed during your birth. I knew that part, Naruto said, surprising Jiraiya again. Kurama told me about being extracted from her by a masked man with a Sharingan. Jiraiya's expression darkened. The fox is quite forthcoming with information, isn't it? Yes, someone attacked during your birth, took advantage of the weakened seal, and unleashed the Nine Tails on Konoha. Your parents sacrificed themselves to seal it within you and save the village. Why didn't anyone tell me? Naruto demanded, anger beginning to overshadow shock. Why keep it secret? Your father had many enemies, especially in IWA after the last war. The third thought it safer if your heritage remained secret until you could protect yourself. Jiraiya paused, studying Naruto carefully. though it seems the Nine Tails had other ideas about what you should know. Kurama. Naruto corrected automatically. His name is Kurama, right? Kurama. Jiraiya shook his head in wonder. I still can't believe you've established such a relationship with him. The conversation continued as they resumed their journey, with Jiraiya sharing stories about Minato and Kushina that painted a picture of the parents Naruto had never known. Meanwhile, in his mindscape, Naruto confronted Kurama about the timing of this revelation. You could have told me sooner, he accused, standing before the massive gate. Kurama's eyes gleamed. Perhaps, but would you have been ready to hear it? To understand the full implications. What implications? Naruto challenged. That your father, the great hero of Konoha, chose to seal me within his own son rather than find another solution. Kurama replied evenly. That he believed so strongly in your potential that he burdened you with both my power and my hatred, trusting you would someday master both. Naruto fell silent, absorbing this perspective. He didn't do it lightly. Kurama continued, his tone softening slightly. In his final moments, he spoke of his faith in you, not just as a Jinchuriki, but as his son. Kushina too. They believed you would use my power for good, perhaps even find a way to end the cycle of hatred between humans and Bijou. Is that possible? Naruto asked. Kurama's massive head tilted slightly. A month ago, I would have said no, but you've already proven many of my assumptions wrong. Naruto Uzumaki. So perhaps, just perhaps, their faith wasn't misplaced. The search for Tsunade led them to Tanzuka Town, where the legendary medic was evading debt collectors and drowning her sorrows in sake and gambling. Along the way, Jiraiya began Naruto's Rasengan training, breaking the complex jutsu into 3 stages: rotation, power, and containment. The balloon needs to pop from the chakra spinning in multiple directions, Jiraiya explained, demonstrating with a water balloon. Naruto struggled with the first stage until Kurama offered an insight. You're thinking too directly. Your chakra naturally flows in spirals because of my presence. Don't fight that pattern, enhance it. Following this advice, Naruto imagined his chakra as a whirlpool rather than trying to force it into opposing directions. The balloon shuddered, then burst as the spinning chakra intensified. Jiraiya observed, impressed. That's a different approach than I expected. You're using the natural spiral of your chakra instead of creating counter-rotations. Naruto grinned. Kurama suggested it. He says my chakra already has a spiral pattern because of the seal. The second stage, power, proved more challenging, requiring Naruto to burst a solid rubber ball using only chakra pressure. Here, raw power was needed more than finesse. This is where our partnership is most effective, Kurama noted as Naruto struggled. My chakra is denser than yours. Try using a small amount of it as a core, then wrap your chakra around it. The technique worked. The rubber ball exploded spectacularly, though the backlash left Naruto's hand temporarily numb. Impressive, Jiraiya commented, examining Naruto's reddened palm. But control is still an issue. Let's hold off on stage 3 until your chakra pathways recover. Their arrival in Tanzuka Town coincided with Orochimaru's own approach to Tsunade. The Snake Sannin, arms useless from the 3rd Hokage's final jutsu, sought Tsunade's legendary medical skills for healing. When Naruto and Jiraiya finally located Tsunade in a small restaurant, they found her already drunk and bitter, accompanied by her assistant Shizune and pet pig Taunton. So if the council wants me to be Hokage, she scoffed after Jiraiya explained their mission. What a joke. Only fools take that job. Hey, Naruto protested. Don't talk about the Hokage like that. The old man died protecting the village. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. Exactly my point. Sarutobi-sensei, my grandfather, my great-uncle, my little brother Dan, all dead because they clung to that foolish dream. Then I'm a fool too, Naruto declared firmly. Because I'm going to be Hokage someday. The blonde Sannin laughed derisively. Another one? You're just like those others, chasing a title that's nothing but a death sentence. Better to die for something worthwhile than live for nothing, Naruto countered, feeling Kurama's silent approval of his words. Tsunade's expression darkened. Big word from a brat who knows nothing of loss. You'd be surprised what he knows, Jiraiya interjected, his usual jovial manner subdued. This is Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade, Minato, and Kushina's son. Recognition flickered in Tsunade's eyes, followed by something like guilt. "So this is their boy," she murmured, studying Naruto more carefully. Then, seeming to harden her resolve, she slammed her sake cup down. "Doesn't change anything. The dream of Hokage is still a fool's errand." "Prove it," Naruto challenged, standing up. "If I can master a jutsu you think is impossible for me in 1 week, you have to acknowledge that the title of Hokage isn't worthless." "Naruto," Jiraiya cautioned, but Tsunade was already smirking. "Fine. Let's see the jutsu you're working on." When Jiraiya revealed it was the Rasengan, Tsunade's eyebrows rose. "The fourth jutsu? This brat can barely form coherent sentences, let alone master an A-rank shape transformation technique." 1 week, Naruto insisted. "If I master it, you come back to Konoha and become Hokage. And if you fail, you give up that ridiculous dream and this," Tsunade countered, pointing to the first Hokage's necklace hanging between her breasts. "Deal." As they left the restaurant, Kurama's voice rumbled in Naruto's mind. "You realize she's already been approached by Orochimaru? Her chakra carries traces of his tainted energy." Naruto nearly stumbled. "What? Are you sure?" "Certain. She's weighing options, considering his offer. Whatever it is, it involves her personal losses." Her emotional distress spiked when she mentioned her brother and someone named Dan. "We need to tell Pervy Sage," Naruto decided. When informed, Jiraiya's expression turned grave. "This complicates things. Orochimaru must have offered to resurrect her loved ones using the impure world resurrection jutsu in exchange for healing his arms. Would she really betray Konoha for that?" Naruto asked, troubled by the possibility. "Grief can warp even the strongest minds," Jiraiya replied. "And Tsunade's wounds have been festering for decades." The week that followed was intense. Naruto trained relentlessly on the Rasengan's third stage, containment, while Jiraiya gathered intelligence on Orochimaru's whereabouts. Using Kurama's advice about chakra shaping and his own determination, Naruto made steady progress. "The key is balance," Kurama explained. "Power without control creates destruction. Control without power yields nothing. You need both in perfect harmony." On the 6th day, exhausted from continuous training, Naruto collapsed in the forest clearing where he'd been practicing. Hundreds of destroyed balloons and torn fragments of rubber lay scattered around him. "I'm still not getting it," he groaned, staring at his blistered palm. "You're overthinking," Kurama observed. "The Rasengan is essentially a miniature bijou bomb. Concentrated chakra held in perfect balance until release." "Bijou bomb?" Naruto questioned. In response, Kurama shared a mental image. A massive sphere of condensed chakra, held together by perfect equilibrium between positive and negative energy, capable of devastating destruction when launched. "That's what you can do?" Naruto asked, awed. "Among other things," the fox confirmed. "The Rasengan follows similar principles, just on a human scale. Try visualizing it not as 3 separate steps, but as a single, continuous flow. Rotation, power, and containment happening simultaneously." The next morning, Naruto succeeded, forming a stable, spiraling sphere of chakra in his right hand. It wasn't perfect. Maintaining it required intense concentration, and the chakra sometimes wobbled unstably. But it was unmistakably the Rasengan. His victory celebration was short-lived. Shizune found him at the training ground, panic in her eyes. "Naruto, Tsunade drugged Jiraiya-sama last night. She's going to meet Orochimaru this morning." The confrontation at the arranged meeting place, a destroyed castle outside town, revealed the depth of Tsunade's conflict. Though she had agreed to consider Orochimaru's offer, when the moment came to heal his arms, she couldn't bring herself to enable the man who had desecrated the Hokages and attacked Konoha. The battle that erupted when Naruto and a still weakened Jiraiya arrived was on a scale Naruto had never witnessed. 3 legendary Sannin, former teammates now divided by ideology, clashed with techniques that reshaped the battlefield. Orochimaru and his assistant Kabuto against Tsunade, Jiraiya, Naruto, and Shizune. When Kabuto used his medical knowledge to induce Tsunade's hemophobia, rendering her nearly catatonic at the sight of blood, Naruto found himself facing the glasses-wearing medic directly. "You're out of your league." Jinchuriki, Kabuto taunted, chakra scalpels forming around his hands. "Let's show him how wrong he is," Kurama growled, his chakra surging in response to Naruto's determination. The fight was brutal. Kabuto's medical jutsu allowed him to sever muscles and disrupt Naruto's chakra pathways with mere glancing blows. Even with Kurama rapidly healing the damage, Naruto found himself increasingly outmatched by Kabuto's precision and experience. "He's targeting your chakra network systematically," Kurama warned after a particularly devastating hit to Naruto's chest. "He's trying to disrupt your access to my chakra." "Then let's use what we have now," Naruto gasped, forming a familiar cross-shaped hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 clones appeared, surrounding Kabuto. Working in concert, they engaged the medical need from multiple angles, forcing him to divide his attention. When one clone managed to grab Kabuto from behind, Naruto saw his opportunity. "Now!" he shouted, charging forward with his right hand extended, chakra swirling into the imperfect but functional Rasengan he'd mastered just hours earlier. Kabuto twisted at the last moment, driving his chakra scalpel into Naruto's heart even as the Rasengan tore into his abdomen. Both combatants were thrown backward by the impact, severely injured. Cardiac muscles damaged. Kurama assessed immediately, directing his chakra to the wounded area. "He severed connections to your heart's conduction system. I'm rerouting chakra to maintain function until it heals." Across the battlefield, Kabuto struggled to his feet, his abdomen a spiral-patterned mess of torn tissue. His medical ninjutsu was already working to repair the damage, but the Rasengan had done its work. He was significantly weakened. Naruto, sustained by Kurama's chakra, staggered toward the still-frozen Tsunade. "I won the bet," he gasped, blood trickling from his mouth. "I mastered the Rasengan. Now you have to acknowledge the title of Hokage and come back to the village." Before Tsunade could respond, Naruto collapsed, the strain of maintaining consciousness despite his injuries finally overwhelming him. He awoke days later in a hotel room, bandaged but healing rapidly thanks to Kurama's influence. Tsunade sat beside his bed, her expression thoughtful as she watched him stir. "You're a lot like them, you know," she said softly. "You have Kushina's spirit and Minato's determination." Naruto blinked groggily. "You knew my parents? I helped deliver you," Tsunade revealed, a sad smile crossing her face. "I was there the night everything went wrong. After I lost Anne, I couldn't bear to stay in Konoha, but I returned briefly when Kushina's time came." Her fingers touched the first Hokage's necklace, now hanging around Naruto's neck. "I never expected to give this to anyone again. It's killed everyone else who wore it." "It won't kill me," Naruto asserted, touching the crystal. "I don't break my promises. I'm going to be Hokage someday." "I believe you might," Tsunade acknowledged, standing up. "We leave for Konoha tomorrow. There's a lot of work to do if I'm going to be the 5th Hokage." As she left the room, Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind. "You've earned her respect. No small feat, considering how calcified her heart had become. Just like I earned yours." Naruto teased. The fox's snort was answer enough. The return to Konoha brought changes both immediate and subtle. Tsunade's first acts as Hokage included healing Sasuke from the psychological trauma inflicted by Itachi Uchiha Tsukuyomi during a brief incursion into the village while Naruto was away. She also repaired Rock Lee's devastating injuries from his match with Gaara, giving the Taijutsu specialist a chance to resume his ninja career. For Team 7, missions resumed with a new dynamic. Sasuke, having witnessed Naruto's growth during the Chunin Exams and hearing of his success with the Rasengan, became increasingly obsessed with his own development. The curse mark Orochimaru had placed on him during the Forest of Death exacerbated this fixation, whispering promises of power. "He's changing," Naruto confided to Kurama one evening after a particularly tense training session where Sasuke had nearly lost control when Naruto successfully countered one of his fire techniques. "The Uchiha has always walked a precipice between light and darkness," Kurama observed. "His brother's actions pushed him toward vengeance, and Orochimaru's curse mark pulls him further. The question is whether his bonds with you and the others will be strong enough to counter those influences." The answer came sooner than expected. After a confrontation with Itachi during his and Kisame's search for Naruto, a brief, one-sided battle that left Sasuke humiliated once again, the young Uchiha's frustration reached a breaking point. That night, For Sound Ninja appeared in Konoha with an offer from Orochimaru, power in exchange for loyalty. Sasuke, driven by desperation and the curse mark's influence, Accepted. Naruto awoke to pounding on his apartment door shortly after dawn. Sakura stood there, tears streaming down her face. Sasuke's gone, she sobbed. He left with Orochimaru's followers last night. Tsunade-sama is assembling a retrieval team right now. The hastily formed team consisted of Shikamaru, recently promoted to Chunin, Kiba Inuzuka, Niji Hyuga, Choji Akimichi, and Naruto. As they gathered at the village gate, Shikamaru outlined their pursuit strategy with a tactical precision that had earned him his promotion. This is a retrieval mission, not an assassination, he emphasized. Our goal is to bring Sasuke back alive, preferably without casualties on either side. As they departed, moving in the diamond formation Shikamaru had specified, Naruto felt Kurama's focused attention. This will be dangerous, the fox warned. Orochimaru wouldn't send ordinary shinobi for the Uchiha. Be prepared to draw heavily on my chakra, if necessary. I won't let Sasuke go to Orochimaru, Naruto replied grimly. Whatever it takes. The pursuit quickly became complicated when they discovered the Sound Four had laid traps along their escape route. First Choji, then Niji, Kiba, and finally Shikamaru stayed behind to engage individual enemies, allowing Naruto to continue the pursuit alone. He caught up to Sasuke at the Valley of the End, a massive waterfall bordered by towering statues of Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, founders of Konoha and symbols of the village's complex history. Sasuke stood atop Madara's head, his back to Konoha, facing the border that would take him to Orochimaru. I was wondering if they'd send you, he said without turning, his voice carrying over the roar of the falls. Naruto landed on Hashirama's statue, symbolism lost on neither of them. You can't go to Orochimaru. He just wants your body for his immortality jutsu. I know, Sasuke replied, finally turning. The curse mark had spread across half his face, its flame-like pattern distorting his features. But he'll give me power first. Power I need to kill Itachi. At what cost? Naruto demanded. Your soul? Your humanity? Everything your clan stood for. Sasuke laughed bitterly. What do you know about my clan? About what Itachi did to them? About what it means to be the last one left with the burden of vengeance? More than you think, Naruto countered. I know what it's like to be alone, to have a burden no one else understands. But running to Orochimaru won't fix that. It'll just create a different kind of loneliness. Save your speeches, Sasuke snapped, activating his Sharingan. I made my choice. If you want to stop me, you'll have to break every bone in my body. If that's what it takes to save you from yourself, Naruto replied, drawing on Kurama's chakra as he prepared for battle. Then that's exactly what I'll do. The fight that followed was unlike any Naruto had experienced. Sasuke's Sharingan and fire techniques clashed with Naruto's shadow clones and growing access to Kurama's chakra. The valley echoed with explosions as fireballs met Razengans, and the cliff faces cracked under the force of their blows. He's not fighting to kill, Kurama observed as they narrowly avoided a fire jutsu that could have been aimed more lethally. Despite his words, he's holding back. So am I, Naruto admitted, forming more shadow clones to engage Sasuke. I don't want to hurt him permanently. The dynamic shifted when Sasuke activated the second stage of his curse mark, transforming into a gray-skinned, wing-like appendages sprouting from his back. His chakra darkened, becoming tainted with Orochimaru's influence. This power, Sasuke exulted, flexing his transformed hands. This is what I need to surpass Itachi. In response, Naruto drew more deeply on Kurama's chakra than ever before. The red energy enveloped him, forming a bubbling cloak that took on a fox-like shape, complete with a single tail. Careful, Kurama cautioned. This much of my chakra can cloud your judgment if you're not mindful. The battle intensified, the landscape itself bearing the scars of their clash. Water vaporized where their techniques met, rocks shattered under the force of their impacts, and the statues of the founders cracked from collateral damage. As they fought, a different kind of exchange unfolded. Not just of techniques, but of perspectives, pain, and understanding. Why do you care so much? Sasuke demanded as they grappled midair. Why risk everything for someone who doesn't want to be saved? Because I know what it's like to be consumed by darkness. Naruto shouted back, memories of his early conversations with Kurama flashing through his mind. Because sometimes the people who push everyone away are the ones who need connection most. The fight reached its climax when Sasuke formed his ultimate technique, a Chidori enhanced by the curse mark's power, the lightning chakra turning black with corruption. Naruto countered with a Rasengan infused with Kurama's chakra, the spiraling sphere glowing with a purple-red light. As they charged toward each other, time seemed to slow. In that moment, Naruto entered his mindscape, standing before Kurama's cage. "I need more power," he stated. "Not to kill him, to win decisively. To show him there's another path." Kurama studied him thoughtfully. "You understand what you're asking? More of my chakra could begin a transformation that might be difficult to reverse." "I trust you," Naruto said simply. "We're partners." The fox's eyes widened slightly at those words. Then, with a nod that might have contained respect, Kurama pushed more of his chakra through the seal. In the physical world, something unprecedented happened. As Naruto and Sasuke's techniques collided, a surge of power erupted from the seal on Naruto's stomach. Golden chakra, distinct from the red energy he'd used before, began to mix with his own blue chakra and Kurama's red, creating a swirling vortex that engulfed his body. For a brief moment, Naruto's appearance transformed. His whisker marks deepened, his hair stood up more wildly, and his body became enveloped in a golden-orange chakra that formed a flowing cloak around him. The power boost was immediate and dramatic, enhancing his Rasengan to the point where it completely overwhelmed Sasuke's Chidori. The resulting explosion sent both ninjas flying, but Naruto recovered first, his new chakra mode allowing him to move with unprecedented speed. Before Sasuke could regain his footing, Naruto was there, delivering a decisive blow that reverted the Uchiha's curse Mar transformation and left him unconscious. As the golden chakra faded, Naruto dropped to his knees, exhausted but victorious. Rain began to fall, washing away the blood and debris of their battle. What was that?" he asked Kurama internally, staring at his now normal hands. "That," the fox replied, sounding both surprised and impressed, "was the beginning of Kurama chakra mode, a true partnership between Jinchuriki and Bijou. It shouldn't have been possible with the current seal, and yet." A new voice interrupted their conversation, a presence in Naruto's mindscape that hadn't been there before. "It happened because I designed the seal to evolve as your bond grew." Naruto spun around in his mindscape to find himself face to face with a figure he recognized from the Hokage monument and history books, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. His father. "Dad," Naruto whispered, disbelieving. Minato smiled, the expression so similar to Naruto's own. "I embedded a small portion of my chakra into the seal, programmed to appear if you ever began to access the Nine-Tails chakra in a collaborative rather than combative way. I didn't actually expect it to happen so soon. You're really here? You can see me? Talk to me." Naruto's questions tumbled out. "Only briefly," Minato cautioned. "This chakra imprint is limited. But yes, I can see you, Naruto. You've grown so much." His eyes filled with pride. "And you've accomplished something I never thought possible, forming a partnership with the Nine-Tails." "Kurama," Naruto corrected automatically. "His name is Kurama." Minato's eyebrows rose, then he chuckled. "Kurama, then? I never knew his name." He turned toward the cage, where the massive fox watched their interaction with unreadable eyes. "It seems my son has done what I could not, earned your trust." "Your son is unusual," Kurama replied after a moment's hesitation. "He sees things in others that they cannot see in themselves. Just like his mother," Minato said softly. Then, turning back to Naruto, "I don't have much time, but I want you to know how proud I am of you. The burden we placed on you was unfair, but you've carried it with more grace and wisdom than I could have hoped." "Why did you choose me?" Naruto asked, the question that had haunted him since learning of his parentage. "Why your own son?" Minato's expression turned solemn. "How could I ask another parent to sacrifice what I wasn't willing to sacrifice myself?" And he hesitated. "I believed in you, Naruto. I believed you would not only master Kurama's power, but someday use it to change the very nature of the shinobi world." "That's a lot to put on a baby," Naruto observed, but without rancor. It was Minato acknowledged. "If there had been any other way." He shook his head. "But know this, your mother and I loved you from the moment we knew you existed. Our last thoughts were of you and the man you would become." He stepped forward, placing his hands on Naruto's shoulders. "My chakra is fading, but the seal has evolved now. The power you briefly accessed, Kurama chakra mode, will become more accessible as your partnership deepens. Use it wisely." "I will," Naruto promised, tears forming in his eyes. I wish we had more time." "So do I," Minato smiled sadly. "But remember, a part of me and your mother will always be with you. Not just in the seal, but in who you are." His form began to shimmer, becoming translucent. "I love you, Naruto." "We both did. Never forget that." As Minato faded completely, Naruto turned to Kurama, tears streaming down his face. "Did you know he was in there all this time?" "I suspected something was embedded in the seal," the fox admitted. "But I didn't know it was a chakra imprint of your father, no." Wiping his eyes, Naruto looked up at the massive fox. "Thank you for giving me a chance to meet him." Kurama seemed uncomfortable with the gratitude. "It was not my doing. The seal responded to our cooperation." Still, Naruto insisted. "Thank you for working with me instead of against me, for being my partner." The fox was silent for a long moment. Then, with a slight incline of his massive head, "The partnership has proven beneficial for both of us." Back in the physical world, only seconds had passed. Naruto stood shakily, then moved to where Sasuke lay unconscious. The Uchiha's features had returned to normal, the curse mark receding to its original form. As Naruto lifted Sasuke onto his back, preparing to return to Konoha, he made a decision. "I won," he said quietly to his unconscious teammate. "I could force you to come back now, but that wouldn't fix what's broken inside you." He adjusted Sasuke's weight, looking toward the border beyond the valley. "So I'm letting you go, not because I'm giving up on you, but because you need to find your own path back." "You're letting him go?" Kurama questioned, surprised. "After all that, sometimes people need to hit bottom before they can start climbing back up," Naruto replied, remembering how his own relationship with Kurama had evolved. "Sasuke needs to see for himself what Orochimaru really offers. And when he's ready to come back, I'll be waiting." Gently, he propped Sasuke against a rock at the valley's edge, positioning him so that when he awoke, the path to Orochimaru would be clear. "I won't force you back," Naruto said to his unconscious friend. "But I won't stop trying to reach you either. That's my ninja way." With that, he turned and began the journey back to Konoha, where he would face the consequences of returning without Sasuke. It wouldn't be easy explaining his decision to Sakura, to Tsunade, to the others who had risked their lives in the retrieval mission. But Naruto understood something now that he hadn't before. True bonds couldn't be forced or maintained through obligation alone. As he traveled, Kurama's voice echoed in his mind. "You've changed, Naruto Uzumaki." The boy who sought acknowledgement at any cost would never have made that choice. "Maybe we've both changed," Naruto replied, thinking of their journey from antagonists to reluctant allies to true partners. "Maybe that's what growing up is." Perhaps, the fox conceded. "Though in my thousands of years of existence, I've rarely seen humans demonstrate such wisdom." After a pause, he added, "Your father would have been proud of your decision." Those words, more than anything, assured Naruto he had made the right choice. The road ahead would be difficult. Akatsuki's interest in the Bijou, Orochimaru's plans for Sasuke, the secrets of his parents' lives still to uncover. But for the first time, he felt truly prepared to face those challenges. Not because he was stronger, though the brief activation of Kurama Chakra Mode had shown him heights of power he'd never imagined possible. Not because he had the support of friends and mentors, though that remained vital, but because he learned that true strength came from understanding of himself, of others, even of those considered enemies. And in a world built on cycles of hatred and vengeance, understanding might be the most revolutionary power of all. As Konoha's gates appeared on the horizon, Naruto made a silent promise to the friend he'd left behind and to the partner now beside him. This was just the beginning of their story, not the end. And whatever came next, they would face it together. The gentle sway of the boat rocked Naruto as he stared across the vast ocean, watching the horizon blur between sea and sky. 2.5 years had passed since he'd left Konoha with Jiraiya, embarking on a training journey that had transformed him in ways no one could have anticipated. His reflection in the water showed a taller, more mature young man with longer blonde hair, framing his face, but the changes went far deeper than mere appearance. Reminiscing again, Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind, warm with familiarity. "Just thinking about how far we've come," Naruto replied internally, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Remember when you could barely stand me?" The fox's chuckle reverberated through their shared consciousness. "I recall a particularly loud, orange-clad child who wouldn't stop pestering me. Somehow, That irritating boy became someone I'd entrust with my power and knowledge. Their journey toward true partnership had been anything but smooth. The first year of training had focused on mastering the partial Kurama chakra mode that Naruto had briefly accessed during his battle with Sasuke. The process had been grueling. Controlling Kurama's immense chakra required precision that the previously impulsive Naruto had struggled to develop. "You've got to focus," Jiraiya had insisted during those early sessions, watching his golden chakra flickered unstably around Naruto's form. The Nine Tails chakra isn't just raw power. It's sentient energy that responds to your emotions and intent. He has a name. Naruto had corrected automatically. "It's Kurama." Jiraiya had shaken his head in wonder. "I still can't get used to that." Centuries of Jinchuriki, and none of them ever referred to their bijou by name. The breakthrough had come 6 months into their training during a meditation session high in the mountains of Lightning Country. As Naruto sat cross-legged on a rocky outcropping, lightning storms raging around him, he had finally achieved a stable partial transformation, his body enveloped in glowing golden-orange chakra that formed a flowing cloak around him. "Good," Kurama had approved, his voice clearer than ever in Naruto's mind. "Now maintain it while performing basic jutsu." 4 weeks afterward, Naruto practiced jutsu while maintaining the chakra cloak, from simple shadow clones to complex Rasengan variations. Each success strengthened the bond between him and Kurama, their chakra systems gradually harmonizing instead of fighting each other. The second year brought deeper understanding, not just of techniques, but of history, politics, and the ancient wisdom Kurama had accumulated over centuries. During quiet evenings around campfires, the Fox shared stories of civilizations long forgotten, battles that had shaped the shinobi world, and perspectives on human nature that only an immortal being could possess. The cycle of hatred between humans and bijou began with the Sage of Six Paths death. Kurama explained one night as Naruto listened intently. His son's conflict echoes through history, Indra's desire for power and Ashura's belief in cooperation. Every generation repeats this pattern in some form. Like Sasuke and me, Naruto realized, thinking of his friend who had chosen Orochimaru's path of power. Precisely. The Uchiha descend from Indra, while you, with your stubborn belief in bonds, carry Ashura's will. These lessons continued across continents as Jiraiya's network took them from the frigid mountains of Iron Country to the scorching deserts of Wind. Naruto learned to identify political tensions between villages, to read the undercurrents of power in diplomatic exchanges, and to understand that true strength lay not just in jutsu, but in knowledge and perception. The final 6 months of their journey brought the most profound change. On a remote island that Jiraiya claimed had been sacred to the Uzumaki clan, they prepared for the ultimate test, the complete removal of the seal that separated Naruto and Kurama. "This is dangerous," Jiraiya warned, concern etched in his features as he drew complex sealing arrays around Naruto. No Jinchuriki has ever voluntarily removed their seal. The bijou typically overwhelms the host immediately. "Kurama won't overwhelm me," Naruto stated with absolute certainty. "We've agreed on this. Total partnership, not domination." The ritual took place during a lunar eclipse, when the barrier between mental and physical realms was thinnest. As Jiraiya activated the sealing array, Naruto found himself pulled into the deepest part of his mindscape. Not the familiar sewer-like chamber where Kurama's cage stood, but a vast, empty space where reality seemed malleable. There, he stood face to face with Kurama, no bars between them. The massive fox regarded him solemnly. "Are you certain about this, Naruto Uzumaki? Once the seal is gone, there is no going back. We will be linked more completely than any Jinchuriki and bijou in history." "I'm sure," Naruto answered without hesitation. "We're stronger together than apart." "I trust you, Kurama." "Then take my hand," the fox said, shrinking to a more human-like form and extending a clawed hand. "And I will take yours." As their hands clasped, a blinding light enveloped them both. Naruto felt Kurama's consciousness flow into his own, not as an invader, but as a partner merging at the deepest level. Memories, emotions, and knowledge spanning thousands of years poured into him. Even as his human perspective, his hopes and determination flowed into Kurama. In the physical world, Jiraiya watched in awe as the seal on Naruto's stomach glowed golden before seeming to dissolve into his skin. Golden chakra erupted around the young man, forming not just a cloak but a complete transformation. Naruto's appearance sharpened, his whisker marks deepened, and his eyes shifted to a brilliant gold with fox-like slits. Most remarkably, the chakra coalescing around him took the shape of a complete nine-tailed fox, perfect in every detail. When Naruto finally opened his eyes, Jiraiya took an involuntary step back at the power radiating from his student. "Naruto," he questioned cautiously, "are you still you?" The young man smiled, and though his appearance had changed, the warmth in that smile was unmistakably Naruto's. "I'm still me, pervy sage. Just more. Kurama and I are fully synchronized now. We're a perfect Jinchuriki." The days that followed revealed the extent of this transformation. Naruto could now access unlimited amounts of Kurama's chakra without strain, transform instantly between human appearance and various levels of tailed beast forms, and most remarkably, draw on Kurama's vast knowledge as if it were his own. "It's like having a second brain," he explained to Jiraiya as they tested his new abilities. "I can think like myself and like Kurama simultaneously. Human intuition and fox cunning working together." Jiraiya shook his head in amazement as he watched Naruto form a perfect bijou bomb the size of a marble, then expand it to the size of a house before compressing it back down. Complete control that should have been impossible. "You've surpassed every Jinchuriki in history, kid. Hell, you might have surpassed the sages themselves." On their final night, before returning to Konoha, Jiraiya grew serious as they sat beneath the stars. "Naruto, with this power comes responsibility. You could easily become the strongest shinobi alive, but strength without wisdom is dangerous." "I know," Naruto nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's why Kurama's ancient perspective is so important. He tempers my impulses with experience. Together, we understand that power is only meaningful when used to protect." Jiraiya studied his student. The boy who had left Konoha as an unpredictable, sometimes foolish genin was returning as something unprecedented, a perfect fusion of human and bijou, combining boundless power with ancient wisdom. "The world isn't ready for what you've become," the Sannin said softly. Naruto's golden eyes reflected the starlight as he smiled. "Then we'll just have to help the world catch up." Now, as their boat approached Fire Country's shores, Naruto stood at the bow, excitement building at the prospect of seeing his friends again. The wind rustled through his longer hair as he adjusted the new headband Jiraiya had given him, wider and longer than the standard Konoha style, reminiscent of his father's. "Home at last," he murmured, feeling Kurama's anticipation mingling with his own. "Yes," the fox agreed. "And just in time, it seems. I sense trouble brewing. The Akatsuki have begun moving more openly." Naruto nodded, his expression hardening with resolve. "Then it's good we're back. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The familiar gates of Konoha appeared exactly as Naruto remembered them, though he himself had changed dramatically. As he and Jiraiya approached, the guards did a double take, recognition dawning slowly on their faces. "Naruto? Naruto Uzumaki," one exclaimed, eyes widening. "You've grown." Naruto grinned, and for a moment he was the same bright-eyed boy who'd left 2.5 years ago. "Sure have. Is Granny Tsunade around? We need to report in." News of his return spread quickly through the village. By the time they reached the Hokage Tower, familiar faces were already gathering. Sakura was the first to greet him, rushing forward with wide eyes. "Naruto!" she exclaimed, then stopped short, staring. You're different." He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "Yeah, I grew a bit. You look great, Sakura-chan." But it wasn't just his height she was noticing. There was a presence about him now, a calm confidence that radiated from his very being. And his chakra, even without being a sensor type, she could feel it, vast and warm and somehow ancient. "Something's changed about you," she said more quietly. "It's not just physical." Before he could respond, Tsunade's voice boomed from the tower entrance. "About time you two showed up. Get in here. We have a situation." The situation, it turned out, was dire. As Tsunade explained in her office, the Akatsuki had kidnapped Gaara, who had become Kazekage during Naruto's absence. Naruto felt Kurama's immediate concern resonating through their bond. "Shikaku is in danger," the fox observed internally. "My brother may be unstable, but he doesn't deserve to be extracted and used as a weapon. We'll save them both, Naruto promised silently before addressing Tsunade. When do we leave? Immediately, she replied, studying him with narrowed eyes. Team Kakashi will handle this mission. Kakashi reports that the Akatsuki members involved are Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara, an explosives expert from IWA. I know of them, Naruto said automatically, drawing on Kurama's knowledge. Sasori turned himself into a human puppet after leaving Suna during the Second Shinobi War. He uses a 100 puppet technique and specializes in poisons. Deidara was a terrorist bomber before joining Akatsuki, with mouths in his palms that infuse clay with explosive chakra. The room fell silent, everyone staring at him in shock. How do you know all that? Tsunade demanded, leaning forward. That's classified intelligence that even I only received recently. Naruto exchanged a glance with Jiraiya, who nodded slightly. Kurama and we've become fully synchronized. A perfect Jinchuriki partnership. I have access to his memories and knowledge, which spans centuries. Kurama, Kakashi questioned, his visible eye widening. The Nine-Tails name, Jiraiya explained. They're unlike any Jinchuriki Bijou pair in history. Completely harmonized. To demonstrate, Naruto closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they had shifted to golden with vertical slits, and a faint golden aura surrounded his body. We need to move quickly if we're going to save Gaara and Shikaku. The extraction process takes 3 days, and they've already had him for nearly 1. Tsunade studied him for a long moment before nodding. Go. Team Kakashi will depart immediately for Suna. Team Guy will follow as backup. As they left the village at top speed, Sakura kept glancing at Naruto, questions evident in her expression. Finally, as they paused briefly to rest, she approached him. This change in you, it's because of the Nine-Tails? Kurama, he corrected gently. And yes, but not in the way you might think. We're partners now, not prisoner and jailer. His consciousness and mine, they've synchronized. I'm still me, but I also have his wisdom and power. Kakashi, listening nearby, shook his head in wonder. In all the history of Jinchuriki, there's never been a case of true harmony with a Bijou. They've always been controlled, suppressed. Maybe that was the problem, Naruto suggested, echoing words he'd spoken to Jiraiya years ago. Bijou aren't just chakra monsters. They're sentient beings with their own wisdom and perspectives. Kurama has lived for thousands of years. He's seen civilizations rise and fall, watched the formation of the hidden villages, observed every major conflict in shinobi history. And now you have access to all that knowledge. Sakura asked, amazed. Naruto nodded. It's like having a second consciousness that works alongside my own. His tactical experience, combined with my unpredictability, makes us, pretty formidable. That's putting it mildly, Kakashi murmured, his eye crinkling with what might have been a smile beneath his mask. Let's see what this new partnership can do against Akatsuki. They reached the Sand Village in record time, learning that Kankuro had been poisoned trying to pursue Gaara's kidnappers. While Sakura worked to heal the puppet master, Naruto closed his eyes, extending his senses through Kurama's chakra. I can feel Gaara and Shikaku, he said suddenly, eyes still closed. They're about 70 kilometers northeast in a cavern system. The extraction has begun, but it's not complete. We have maybe 36 hours before Shikaku is fully removed. How can you sense them from this distance? Temari asked, shock evident in her voice. Bijou can sense their siblings across great distances, Naruto explained, opening now golden eyes. Kurama is particularly attuned to Shikaku, despite their differences. Once Kankuro was stabilized and had identified Sasori's general hideout location, the team departed immediately, joined by Elder Chiyo, Sasori's grandmother. As they traveled, Naruto briefed the team on what they would likely face, drawing on Kurama's knowledge of Akatsuki. The cave will be sealed with a 5-point barrier jutsu, he explained. We'll need to locate and remove all 5 tags simultaneously to break it. Inside, they'll have Gaara suspended over a statue, the Gedomazo, an outer path of the Rinnegan that can absorb and contain Bijou chakra. How do you know about the Rinnegan? Chiyo demanded. That dojutsu is supposed to be mythical. It's real, Naruto replied grimly. The Akatsuki leader possesses it, and the statue is where they plan to seal all 9 Bijou eventually. As they approached the hideout location, Naruto sensed another team following them. Team Guy is about 2 hours behind us, he informed Kakashi. They'll make good backup, but we shouldn't wait. Gaara's life force is weakening. True to his prediction, they found the cave sealed with a massive boulder covered in intricate Fuinjutsu. Naruto immediately identified the barrier style. 5-seal barrier, he confirmed. Kakashi-sensei, take your team and find the other 4 tags. They'll be placed at equal distances within a kilometer radius. I'll handle this one, alone, Sakura questioned. Naruto smiled reassuringly. Trust me. Once the others departed to locate the remaining seals, Naruto approached the boulder. Rather than attempting to break it directly, he placed his palm against the surface, golden chakra flowing from his fingertips. Seal perception technique, he murmured, a skill he'd learned from studying Uzumaki scrolls during his training. The complex matrix of the barrier jutsu became visible to him, glowing lines of chakra forming an intricate pattern. Their sealing knowledge is impressive but outdated, Kurama observed within their shared mindscape. This style hasn't been used since the Warring States period. Can we disrupt it without destroying the other tags? Naruto asked internally. Yes. Uzumaki blood carries special properties for seal manipulation. Channel our chakra through the matrix nodes in this sequence. Following Kurama's guidance, Naruto traced precise patterns on the seal with chakra-coated fingers. The massive seal began to glow, then flicker as if struggling against his interference. Through their communication devices, Kakashi's voice crackled. We've located all 4 remaining tags. Ready on your mark. Hold position, but don't remove them yet, Naruto instructed. I'm trying something first. Continuing his precise manipulation, Naruto found the keystone point in the seal matrix, the fulcrum on which the entire barrier balanced. With surgical precision, he injected a pulse of Kurama's chakra directly into this point. The entire seal flashed brilliant red, then gold, before dissolving completely. The boulder, no longer supported by chakra, crumbled to dust. Barrier neutralized, Naruto reported calmly. Converge on my position. Inside the cavern, a scene straight from nightmares greeted them. Gaara floated unconsciously within a sphere of chakra, tendrils of golden brown energy, Shikaku's chakra, being drawn from his body into the mouth of a massive, demonic statue. Around it stood 9 spectral figures, Akatsuki members projecting their consciousness while their physical bodies were elsewhere. Only 2 were physically present. A hunched figure that Naruto immediately identified as Sasori in his puppet armor, and a blonde man sitting casually atop Gaara's unconscious body, Deidara. Well, this is unexpected, Deidara remarked, sounding more amused than concerned. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki delivers himself to us. How convenient. You're too late anyway. The projection of a spiky-haired figure, Pain, stated coldly. The one-tail extraction is nearly complete. No, Naruto replied simply, his voice carrying an authority that made several Akatsuki members shift uneasily. It isn't. Without another word, Naruto flashed into his complete Kurama chakra mode, golden light erupting around him, forming the spectral image of the nine-tailed fox. The transformation was instantaneous and perfect, radiating power that made the cave itself tremble. Impossible, Pain murmured, his Rinnegan eyes widening slightly. No Jinchuriki can control that much Bijou chakra without losing themselves. I'm not controlling Kurama, Naruto corrected, his voice overlaid with the fox's deeper tones. We're partners. Before any Akatsuki member could react, Naruto launched forward with blinding speed, golden chakra arms extending to grasp the streams of Shikaku's chakra being pulled from Gaara. With a single, powerful motion, he reversed the flow, forcing the already extracted chakra back toward the Kazekage. The Ghetto statue howled, a sound of ancient rage that shook the very foundations of the cave. Stop him, Pain commanded as the extraction process began to collapse. Deidara leapt into action, clay spiders erupting from his palms toward Naruto. Without even looking in the bomber's direction, Naruto formed a chakra arm that swatted the explosives away, detonating them harmlessly against the cavern wall. Sasori unleashed his tail, poison dripping from its tip as it stabbed toward Naruto's back. A second chakra arm caught at midair, crushing the metal appendage with casual ease. Retreat, Pain ordered, recognizing the unprecedented threat before them. We cannot contain the Nine Tails in this state. Sasori, Deidara, delay him. As the Akatsuki projections flickered out, Naruto completed his disruption of the extraction process. With careful precision, he guided Shikaku's chakra back into Gaara, simultaneously using his own chakra to stabilize the Kazekage's fluctuating life force. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura, he called without taking his eyes off his work, handle Sasori. Chiyo-sama, your knowledge of his techniques will be crucial. I'll deal with Deidara after I stabilize Gaara. The battle that followed was unlike anything the elder shinobi had witnessed. While Kakashi, Sakura, and Chiyo engaged Sasori in a complex battle of traps, poisons, and puppetry, Naruto maintained perfect focus on healing Gaara while simultaneously tracking Deidara's movements. When the bomber attempted to escape on a clay bird, Naruto, still maintaining his connection to Gaara with one chakra arm, extended another that stretched impossibly across the cavern, seizing Deidara's mount in mid-flight. Your explosives use Earth-style chakra, Naruto stated calmly, golden eyes fixed on the struggling Akatsuki member. Unfortunately for you, Kurama's chakra has properties of both wind and fire, the perfect counter. With that, he released a pulse of chakra that transmuted the clay bird from within, neutralizing its explosive properties and causing it to crumble. As Deidara fell, Naruto formed a third chakra arm that caught him mid-air, pinning him against the cavern wall. Surrender, Naruto suggested, or I'll show you what a real explosion looks like. Deidara's visible eye widened with a mixture of fear and artistic appreciation. What are you? No Jinchuriki has this kind of control. I told you, Naruto replied. Kurama and I are partners. The first perfect Jinchuriki. Meanwhile, the battle with Sasori reached its climax as Chiyo and Sakura worked in perfect tandem to bypass his 100-puppet technique, destroying his puppet body and exposing his living core, a cylinder containing his human heart. In his final moments, Sasori allowed himself to be pierced by his parents' puppets, wielded by his grandmother, a strange piece crossing his features as he shared one last secret about Orochimaru's whereabouts. With both Akatsuki members defeated and Gaara stabilized, Naruto gently lowered the Kazekage to the ground, his golden chakra receding. Will he be all right? Sakura asked, kneeling beside them. Yes, Naruto confirmed, relief evident in his voice. I was able to return Shikaku's chakra and repair the damage to his chakra network. He'll need rest, but he'll make a full recovery. Team Guy arrived shortly after, having dispatched clones of themselves that the Akatsuki had created as delaying tactics. Together, the united Konoha forces returned to Suna with Gaara and their Akatsuki prisoner, Deidara, secured in a seal that Naruto had created specifically to neutralize his explosive capabilities. 3 days later, as they prepared to return to Konoha, Gaara stood at the village gates to bid them farewell, fully recovered though still processing the near-death experience. You saved not just me, but Shikaku as well, the Kazekage said quietly to Naruto. He's different now, calmer. Something about the way you returned his chakra changed our relationship. Naruto smiled knowingly. I didn't just return his chakra, I shared a fragment of the understanding between Kurama and me. Bijou respond to how they're treated. Approach Shikaku as a partner rather than a burden, and you might be surprised at the response. Gaara's eyes widened slightly. Is that possible? After all this time, it's never too late to forge a new bond, Naruto assured him, clasping his friend's shoulder. Even for beings as old as the Bijou. As the Konoha teams departed, leaving a thoughtful Kazekage behind, Kakashi fell in a step beside Naruto. That was the most impressive display of Jinchuriki abilities I've ever witnessed, the copy ninja commented. You've surpassed your father's hopes for you. Naruto smiled, touched by the rare compliment. I had help, he said, a hand resting over his seal. Lots of it. The journey back to Konoha was uneventful, but upon arrival, they found the village buzzing with intelligence about Orochimaru's movements. Sasori's final revelation had provided the location of a planned meeting between the Snake Sannin and a spy within his organization. Tenchi Bridge in 10 days, Tsunade confirmed during their mission debriefing. This could be our chance to locate Sasuke as well. I'll lead the mission. Naruto volunteered immediately, surprising everyone. Tsunade frowned. That's not your decision to make, Brad. Kakashi is still recovering from chakra exhaustion from your last mission. Yamato will serve as team captain with you, Sakura, and a new team member named Sai. Sai, Naruto questioned, sensing something off about the name. A member of Root, Tsunade explained, her distaste evident. Danzo insisted on his inclusion for this mission. Watch him carefully. Meeting Sai proved even more uncomfortable than anticipated. The pale, emotionless young man greeted them with an obviously fake smile and immediately insulted both Naruto and Sakura. Only Naruto's newfound patience, courtesy of Kurama's millennia of perspective, prevented him from responding in kind. He's been conditioned, Naruto observed quietly to Sakura as they prepared for the mission. Root operatives have their emotions sealed away through specialized techniques. He's not being intentionally offensive. He literally doesn't understand normal human interaction. What do you know about Root? Yamato asked, overhearing as he approached. Naruto tapped his temple. Kurama has observed Konoha since its founding. Danzo's shadow organization has operated for decades, training orphans into emotionless weapons. Their seal prevents them from discussing Root operations, even under torture. Yamato studied Naruto with new respect and wariness. Your partnership with the Nine Tails has given you access to some dangerous knowledge. Knowledge isn't dangerous, Naruto countered, only how it's used. And speaking of knowledge, he gave Yamato a knowing look. How long have you had Hashirama's cells and the ability to suppress Bijou chakra, Captain? The ANBU commander tensed visibly. That information is classified, not to Kurama, who sensed Hashirama's chakra in you the moment we met. Naruto replied calmly. Don't worry, your secret is safe. But you should know your suppression techniques won't work on me. In a perfect Jinchuriki, the Bijou's chakra isn't separate from the host's. It's completely integrated. The journey to Tenchi Bridge was filled with similar revelations as Naruto demonstrated an understanding of shinobi politics, history, and techniques that left even the experienced Yamato impressed. Meanwhile, Sai's suspicious behavior, including a secret book he carried and coded messages he sent, confirmed Naruto's suspicion that the Root agent had a secondary mission. He's here to eliminate Sasuke if we find him. Naruto informed Yamato quietly one night while the others slept. Danzo views the last Uchiha as too dangerous to allow back into Konoha, especially with Orochimaru's influence. How can you be sure? Yamato questioned. I can sense negative emotions. It's one of Kurama's abilities. Sai's emotions may be suppressed, but his intent leaks through. And Naruto hesitated. I took the liberty of examining his belongings while he was bathing. He has assassination orders directly from Danzo. Yamato's expression hardened. That contradicts the Hokage's direct orders. Danzo has operated counter to the Hokage's wishes for decades. Naruto replied grimly. He believes he's protecting Konoha, but his methods create as many problems as they solve. When they finally reached Tenchi Bridge, Naruto suggested a strategy that surprised his teammates. I'll transform into Sasori using information we gathered from his puppet body, he explained. With Kurama's help, I can precisely mimic his chakra signature and movement patterns. Yamato Taishu, you and the others remain hidden as backup. If Orochimaru appears instead of just the spy, we'll need to be careful. The plan proceeded smoothly at first. Disguised as Sasori in his puppet armor, Naruto met Kabuto on the bridge. The medical nin began reporting on Orochimaru's experiments and movements, unaware of the deception, until a familiar sinister presence emerged from the forest. Well, Orochimaru's sibilant voice called out. What a surprise to find Sasori himself handling such a routine meeting. Could it be that my old Akatsuki colleague doesn't trust his spy? Within his disguise, Naruto remained perfectly calm despite facing one of the legendary Sannin. Through their bond, Kurama provided tactical analysis. He doesn't know Sasori is dead yet, the fox observed, but he suspects something is wrong. Kabuto's loyalty has shifted. His chakra resonates with Orochimaru's in a way it wouldn't if he were a genuine double agent. The situation deteriorated rapidly when Orochimaru attacked, forcing Naruto to abandon his disguise. As golden chakra erupted around him, both Orochimaru and Kabuto stepped back in shock. The Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Orochimaru hissed, his eyes widening with scientific curiosity. And such perfect control, how fascinating. Where is Sasuke? Naruto demanded. Chakra arms extending from his back as Yamato, Sakura, and Sai emerged from hiding to join him. Orochimaru's laugh was cold and mocking. Sasuke-kun is progressing wonderfully under my tutelage. Such potential, such perfect Uchiha genetics. Why would I tell you where my future vessel is? The battle that followed was calculated chaos. Naruto deliberately held back, using only a fraction of his true power while analyzing Orochimaru's techniques and weaknesses. Though he could have potentially overwhelmed the Sannin with raw power, strategic considerations came first. They needed information about Sasuke's whereabouts more than they needed Orochimaru's defeat. He's not fighting at full capacity either, Kurama noted as they dodged a barrage of snakes. He's testing your capabilities, gathering intelligence just as we are. The confrontation ended in a strategic withdrawal by both sides after Naruto demonstrated enough power to concern Orochimaru without revealing his full capabilities. As the Sannin and Kabuto retreated, they left behind crucial intel. The location of one of Orochimaru's nearby hideouts. That was intentional, Naruto explained to his confused teammates. He wants us to come after Sasuke. He's confident in his control over him and wants to showcase his vessel's progress. It's obviously a trap, Yamato pointed out. Of course it is, Naruto agreed. But it's also our best lead. And traps work both ways. When you know it's there, you can turn it to your advantage. Despite Yamato's reservations, they proceeded to infiltrate Orochimaru's underground complex. Through careful planning and Naruto's ability to sense chakra signatures throughout the labyrinthine hideout, they navigated directly to where Sasuke's distinctive Uchiha chakra emanated. The reunion was far from joyous. Sasuke stood at the end of a destroyed corridor, older, colder, his chakra tainted by Orochimaru's influence and the curse mark's corruption. Naruto, he acknowledged without emotion. Still chasing after me, I see. Still running from yourself, I see. Naruto countered calmly. Something flickered in Sasuke's eyes. Surprise at Naruto's composure. Perhaps expectation of the emotional outburst the old Naruto would have delivered. You've changed, the Uchiha observed. So have you, Naruto replied. But not as much as you think. I can still see the real Sasuke underneath Orochimaru's corruption. Sasuke's face hardened. The real Sasuke died the night my clan was massacred. I exist only for vengeance now. We both know that's not true, Naruto said gently. If it were, you would have killed me at the Valley of the End. You spared me because bonds still matter to you, even if you deny it. Rage flashed across Sasuke's features as he drew his sword with blinding speed, charging it with lightning chakra. I'll sever those bonds permanently this time. The ensuing clash was brief but intense. Sasuke attacked with everything he had. Chidori variants, fire techniques, and taijutsu enhanced by the curse mark. Naruto, however, responded with measured control, deflecting rather than countering, defending his teammates without seriously injuring his former friend. You're holding back, Sasuke accused, frustration evident in his voice. Fight me seriously. I am, Naruto replied, golden chakra flickering around him. Just not the way you want me to. Real strength isn't about destruction, Sasuke. It's about protection. The confrontation ended when Orochimaru and Kabuto appeared, extracting Sasuke before the situation could escalate further. As they vanished in a swirl of smoke and sound, Sasuke's parting words lingered in the air. Next time, I won't hold back either. The team returned to Konoha with valuable intelligence, but without Sasuke. Tsunade was disappointed, but recognized the mission's partial success. They had confirmed Sasuke's location and condition, gathered intelligence on Orochimaru's operations, and most importantly, planted seeds of doubt in Sasuke's mind about his chosen path. He's not completely lost, Naruto assured Sakura as they left the Hokage Tower. I could sense conflict in him. Orochimaru's influence is strong, but Sasuke's true self is fighting it. How can you be so sure? She asked, hope warring with skepticism in her eyes. Naruto smiled gently. Because I've seen inside the hearts of beings far older and more hateful than Sasuke, and found light there. Trust me, there's still hope. The weeks that followed brought new challenges as reports of Akatsuki movements increased. Intelligence suggested that a team consisting of Haiden and Kakuzu was targeting the Two-Tails Jinchuriki, Yujito Ni from Kimobikure. Despite diplomatic complications, Tsunade dispatched a team led by Asuma Sarutobi, to intercept them before they could capture another Bijou. When the team failed to report back on schedule, Naruto approached Tsunade directly. "Let me find them," he requested. "Kurama can sense other Bijou chakra and those who've been in contact with it. If Haiden and Kakuzu have captured Yujito, I can track them." "This isn't your mission, Naruto," Tsunade replied firmly. "Team 10 has requested the follow-up assignment to locate Asuma's team." "Then let me join them," Naruto insisted. "These Akatsuki members are dangerous in ways standard shinobi aren't prepared for. Haiden is functionally immortal due to his connection with Jashin, and Kakuzu has 5 hearts harvested from powerful shinobi." Tsunade's eyes narrowed. "How do you know these details?" "Kurama has observed the formation of Jashin worship from its beginning centuries ago," Naruto explained. "And Kakuzu's technique is an ancient forbidden jutsu from Takigakure that Kurama witnessed during the first Hokage's era." Eventually, Tsunade relented, allowing Naruto to join Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji as they departed to locate Asuma's team. With Naruto's sensory abilities, they found them quickly, but the scene was grim. Asuma lay critically wounded, his chakra fading rapidly as his team fought desperately against Haiden and Kakuzu. Naruto's entrance into the battle was like a force of nature. Golden chakra erupted around him as he immediately assessed the situation and moved to stabilize Asuma. Kakuzu has destroyed 2 of his 4 remaining hearts. Kurama observed internally as Naruto placed healing-infused chakra into Asuma's wounds. Haiden's ritual circle is incomplete. If we disrupt it, his connection to Asuma will break. Working with perfect coordination, Naruto created shadow clones to engage both Akatsuki members while his main body continued emergency treatment on Asuma. "His wounds are severe," he told the gathered shinobi, "but I can stabilize him. Shikamaru, I need your strategy." Kakuzu is the immediate threat. He has 3 hearts left, each with a different chakra nature. Shikamaru, despite his shock at Asuma's condition and Naruto's transformation, quickly analyzed the situation. Haiden is dangerous but simple-minded. If we separate them, Kakuzu becomes more vulnerable. The battle that followed showcased not just Naruto's power, but his tactical brilliance. Rather than overwhelming the Akatsuki members with raw force, he coordinated the combined strengths of both teams with precision. Shikamaru's shadows pinned Haiden, while Naruto systematically destroyed Kakuzu's hearts, targeting each elemental mask with a perfect counter. When only Kakuzu's original heart remained, Naruto unveiled a new technique, a Rasengan enhanced with Wind Nature Chakra that created a shrieking, shuriken-like formation. "Wind style, Rasen Shuriken," he announced, the technique hovering above his palm without direct contact, a level of shape transformation mastery that even Kakashi had never witnessed. The technique tore through Kakuzu's final heart, simultaneously severing his chakra network at the cellular level. Meanwhile, Shikamaru successfully trapped Haiden, using explosive tags to dismember the immortal cultist before burying his still-conscious head in a deep pit in the Nara forest. Thanks to Naruto's immediate intervention and healing abilities, Asuma survived his near-fatal wounds, though his recovery would take months. As the teams returned to Konoha with their injured, Shikamaru pulled Naruto aside. "You saved Asuma-sensei's life," he said quietly. "But more than that, you led that battle in a way I've never seen before. Not with brute force, but with perfect strategy." Naruto smiled modestly. "I just provided the power. The strategy was a team effort." "No," Shikamaru insisted, his keen eyes studying Naruto. "You coordinated everyone's abilities perfectly, countered both enemies' techniques with minimal risk, and did it all while healing a critically injured man. That's not just power, that's tactical genius." "Kurama has observed thousands of battles throughout history," Naruto admitted. "His strategic knowledge, combined with my unpredictability, makes for an effective combination." The lazy genius shook his head in amazement. "Troublesome as always, Naruto, but in a good way this time." The successful defense against 2 Akatsuki members brought only a brief respite. Reports soon arrived that Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki were moving openly near Fire Country's borders, seemingly inviting pursuit. Simultaneously, intelligence suggested Sasuke had left Orochimaru's hideout, apparently hunting his brother. "It's a convergence," Naruto explained to Tsunade during an emergency meeting. Itachi wants to be found, by Sasuke, by me, or both. This is the end game of whatever plan he's been executing since the Uchiha massacre. What makes you so certain? Tsunade demanded. Because Itachi Uchiha is dying, Naruto replied soberly. Kurama can sense it in his chakra signature, a terminal illness that's progressed too far for even medical ninjutsu to treat. He's making his final moves. The revelation sent shockwaves through Konoha's leadership. If Naruto was right, one of their greatest threats and most enigmatic missing need was orchestrating his own final act. We need to reach Itachi before Sasuke does, Naruto urged. There's more to the Uchiha massacre than the official record shows. If Sasuke kills his brother without learning the truth, it could push him beyond redemption. Tsunade authorized the formation of multiple four-man squads to locate both Uchiha brothers. Naruto joined Kakashi, who had recovered from his earlier chakra exhaustion, along with Sakura and Sai. As they prepared to depart, Jiraiya approached with grim news. I've uncovered the identity of the Akatsuki leader, the Toad Sage informed them. He calls himself Pain, and he possesses the Rinnegan. I'm heading to Amigakure to investigate further. A cold weight settled in Naruto's chest at these words, a premonition born of Kurama's ancient wisdom. That's too dangerous to handle alone, he warned his mentor. The Rinnegan is the most powerful dojutsu in existence. Even the Sharingan and Byakugan are derived from it. All the more reason to gather intelligence now, before they make their next move against the Jinchuriki, Jiraiya countered. Besides, I'm one of the legendary Sannin. I can handle myself. Despite his misgivings, Naruto couldn't dissuade his stubborn mentor. They parted ways at Konoha's gate, Jiraiya heading northwest toward Amigakure, while Naruto's team moved northeast, tracking Itachi's distinctive chakra signature. The search led them through Fire Country's dense forests until Naruto suddenly halted, his senses detecting a familiar presence. Sasuke, he announced. He's engaged with someone powerful. Itachi, they're fighting about 10 kilometers ahead. Can we reach them in time? Kakashi asked. Not all of us, Naruto replied, his expression grim. But I can. Without waiting for approval, Naruto activated his full Kurama chakra mode, golden light enveloping him completely. Continue following my chakra signature, he instructed before vanishing in a flash of speed that rivaled his father's famed technique. The battlefield Naruto arrived at was a scene of devastation. An ancient Uchiha hideout partially collapsed, the surrounding forest burning with black flames that Naruto immediately identified as Amaterasu. In the center of the destruction, Sasuke stood panting, blood streaming from his eyes, while Itachi approached slowly, one hand outstretched toward his brother's face. Your eyes are mine, Itachi rasped, blood trickling from his mouth as he advanced. Without hesitation, Naruto inserted himself between the brothers, golden chakra illuminating the darkened battlefield. Enough, he stated, his voice carrying the authority of both human and Bijou. This ends now, Itachi. The elder Uchiha paused, a complex expression crossing his face, surprise, calculation, and perhaps a hint of relief. Naruto Uzumaki, he acknowledged. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. You've grown, interesting. You're dying, Naruto stated bluntly. You've been planning this confrontation for years. But killing Sasuke, or having him kill you, isn't the answer. Stay out of this, Naruto. Sasuke snarled from behind him, struggling to stand. This is my fight, a fight based on lies, Naruto replied without taking his eyes off Itachi. Isn't that right, Itachi? The loyal Konoha shinobi who sacrificed everything to prevent civil war. For the first time, genuine shock registered on Itachi's usually impassive face. How could you possibly know that? Kurama has observed Konoha since its founding, Naruto explained, including the Uchiha's growing discontent, Danzo's machinations, and the impossible choice you were given. Kill your clan, or watch them incite a war that would destroy the village and likely lead to Sasuke's death anyway. Sasuke's chakra flared with confusion and rage. What are you talking about? My brother is a murderer, a monster who killed our family for power. Is that what you told him? Naruto asked Itachi quietly. That you killed the clan to test your abilities? To acquire power? A convenient lie to make him hate you, to drive him to become strong enough to kill you. Itachi's composure cracked further, his Sharingan fading as chakra exhaustion and illness took their toll. "You understand nothing," he whispered, though the denial lacked conviction. "I understand everything," Naruto countered. "You were 13 years old, an AMBU captain torn between loyalty to your clan and loyalty to your village. When the Uchiha planned a coup that would have triggered another shinobi world war, you were ordered to eliminate them. But you couldn't kill Sasuke, the one person you loved more than the village itself." The silence that followed was deafening. Sasuke stood frozen, his mind clearly struggling to process this revelation that contradicted everything he believed for years. "So you made a deal," Naruto continued, his voice gentler now. "You would eliminate the clan to prevent war, but Sasuke would be spared. You'd take the burden of hatred upon yourself, become a missing Nin, join Akatsuki to spy on them from within, all to protect Konoha and Sasuke from the shadows." Itachi's legs finally gave out, and he collapsed to his knees, blood now flowing freely from his mouth, evidence of the disease that had been consuming him for years. His eyes, no longer the fearsome Sharingan, but tired and human, lifted to meet Naruto's. "Ow," he asked simply. "Kurama witnessed the meeting between you and Danzo," Naruto explained. "The third Hokage's chakra was present as well, though he argued for another solution. But in the end, you chose what you believed was the only path that would save Sasuke. Is this true?" Sasuke demanded, his voice cracking with emotion as he staggered forward. "All this time, my hatred, my vengeance, it was based on a lie." Itachi turned to his brother, and for the first time since the night of the massacre, his face showed naked emotion, sorrow, regret, and a profound love that had driven every action. "Forgive me, Sasuke," he whispered. "I failed you in every way except the one that mattered most. You lived." What followed was a conversation years overdue. Painful truths revealed, tears shed by both brothers as Itachi's carefully constructed facade crumbled completely. Naruto maintained a respectful distance, creating a protective barrier with Kurama's chakra to ensure they wouldn't be interrupted. As Itachi's condition deteriorated further, he made a final request of Naruto. "There's another Uchiha, Madara. He helped me that night. He knows everything, and he's using Akatsuki for his own purposes. Stop him. Protect Konoha. Protect Sasuke." "I will," Naruto promised solemnly. With his remaining strength, Itachi pressed his fingers to Sasuke's forehead one last time, the familiar gesture of affection from their childhood. "Sorry, Sasuke," he murmured with a gentle smile. "There won't be a next time." Then, with peace finally visible on his features, Uchiha Itachi closed his eyes for the last time. The aftermath was complicated. When the rest of Naruto's team arrived, they found him creating a dignified pyre for Itachi's body, while Sasuke sat in shocked silence, his worldview shattered completely. "He's in no condition to travel," Naruto told Kakashi quietly. "And he's not our enemy anymore. Itachi's death has broken something fundamental in him. He needs time to rebuild himself with the truth. The truth doesn't change the fact that he's a missing Nin who joined Orochimaru," Kakashi pointed out. "Actually, it might," Naruto countered, "if what Itachi revealed is accurate. His final act was to free Sasuke from Orochimaru's influence. The curse mark is gone. I can't sense its chakra anymore." Eventually, they reached a compromise. Sasuke would remain with them, neither prisoner nor ally, as they returned to Konoha, where Tsunade would determine his status. The journey was largely silent, Sasuke processing his grief and rage, while occasionally asking Naruto questions about what Kurama had witnessed over the years. Their arrival in Konoha coincided with grim news. Jiraiya had not returned from Amage Cure, and a toad messenger had arrived with his final intelligence about Pain. The legendary Sannin was presumed dead. The news hit Naruto like a physical blow. Despite their constant connection, even Kurama's ancient perspective couldn't soften the loss of his mentor. For the first time since becoming a perfect Jinchuriki, Naruto's emotions threatened to overwhelm his control. "He died, gathering critical intelligence," Tsunade told him solemnly, her own eyes red from grieving her former teammate. "Pain possesses multiple bodies, all controlled by a single consciousness. Jiraiya identified the real controller before the end. I should have gone with him," Naruto said quietly, regret evident in his voice. "With our combined strength." "He made his choice," Tsunade interrupted gently. "Just as your father did. Just as I have." just as you will when the time comes. That's what it means to be a shinobi, to make hard choices for the sake of others. In the days that followed, Naruto retreated to Mount Mayaboku, the land of the toads, to process his grief and learn everything he could from Fukusaku, the elder toad who had escaped Amage Cure with Jiraiya's final message. There, he mastered an enhanced version of Sage Mode that, when combined with his perfect Jinchuriki abilities, created a harmonious fusion of natural energy and Bija Chakra. This combination is unprecedented. Fukusaku, observed as golden chakra with orange pigmentation around the eyes, surrounded Naruto. Perfect balance between three energy sources: physical, spiritual, and natural. It feels complete, Naruto replied, sensing the world around him with unprecedented clarity. Like this is how it was always meant to be. His training was interrupted by an urgent summons back to Konoha. Pain had been located, not in Amage Cure, but approaching the Hidden Leaf village directly. He's coming for me, Naruto realized as he prepared for emergency transportation back to Konoha. For Kurama, then we will face him together, the fox replied within their shared consciousness, and show him the true meaning of pain. Naruto arrived to find Konoha already under attack. 6 distinct figures, all with orange hair and Rinnegan eyes, systematically destroying the village while searching for him. The devastation was immense. Buildings collapsed, shinobi struggling against an enemy whose abilities seemed to counter every technique. Rather than rushing in blindly, Naruto used his enhanced senses to analyze each of Pain's 6 paths from a distance, identifying their unique abilities with Kurama's help. The Deva path controls attractive and repulsive forces, the fox observed. The Azura path uses mechanized weapons. The human path reads minds and extracts souls. The animal path summons creatures. The Preta path absorbs chakra. The Naraka path can repair the others and extract information. And they're all controlled remotely by the real Pain, Naruto added, remembering Jiraiya's final intelligence. We need to defeat all 6 bodies while locating the controller. His entrance into the battle was calculated for maximum effectiveness. Rather than announcing his presence, Naruto systematically isolated and eliminated each path, starting with the Naraka path to prevent the others from being repaired. The village watched in awe as golden flashes appeared across the battlefield, each followed by the defeat of one of the seemingly invincible enemies. Naruto moved with such speed and precision that even the Deva path, with its mastery of gravity, struggled to track him. When only the Deva path remained, it unleashed its most devastating technique, Shinra Tensei at full power, a massive repulsive force that leveled what remained of the village center. But Naruto, anticipating this move, had created a network of chakra barriers that minimized civilian casualties, though they couldn't completely prevent the destruction. The final confrontation took place in the massive crater that had once been the heart of Konoha. There, Naruto faced Tendu, the Deva path that contained Yahiko's body, the closest to Pain's true form. You fight differently than I expected, Jinchuriki, Pain observed, his ringed eyes studying Naruto. Not with the emotional rage typical of your kind, but with calculated precision. I'm not typical of anything, Naruto replied calmly, his form glowing with the combined power of Sage Mode and perfect Jinchuriki transformation. And neither is this battle. I know who you really are, Nagato. For the first time, a flicker of surprise crossed the Deva Path's features. Jiraiya's sensei told you. He died learning the truth, Naruto confirmed, just as he taught both of us years apart. The 3 students of the legendary Sannin, you, me, and Conan, connected by teaching, separated by pain. Then you understand why this must happen, Pain replied. This world of shinobi creates nothing but cycles of hatred and vengeance. Only through experiencing true pain can humanity evolve beyond it. What followed was as much philosophical debate as physical battle. As they clashed with techniques of immense power, Naruto's perfect Rasen Shuriken against Pain's gravitational manipulations, they also exchanged perspectives on peace, justice, and the shinobi world's fundamental flaws. Your solution is to inflict more pain? Naruto challenged, deflecting a barrage of chakra receivers with precise chakra arms. To create a weapon so terrible that fear temporarily halts the cycle of hatred? That's not peace. It's just a pause before even greater violence. What alternative exists? Pain demanded, momentarily immobilizing Naruto with Bansho Tenin before being countered by a perfect Sage Mode reversal. Diplomacy fails. Understanding fails. Even Jiraiya's optimism ultimately failed, as proven by his death in my hands. "You're wrong," Naruto stated firmly, golden eyes fixed on his opponent. "Jiraiya's hope lives on. In me, in the bonds between people who choose understanding over vengeance, in the potential for change that exists in every person. Even in you, Nagato." The battle concluded not with a decisive blow, but with Naruto tracking the chakra signals back to Nagato's true location. A paper tree where the emaciated original body sat connected to a mechanical walker, with Conan standing guard beside him. Rather than attacking, Naruto approached openly, his transformation receding to show his sincere desire for dialogue. The conversation that followed changed the course of history. Naruto listened to Nagato's story. The orphan from Amigakure who lost everything in wars fought by larger nations, who awakened a Rinnegan through trauma, who had once shared Jiraiya's dream of peace before pain twisted it into something darker. "I understand your pain," Naruto said quietly when Nagato finished. "I felt lost too, but Jiraiya entrusted both of us with finding a better way, not through fear or control, but through breaking the cycle of hatred one connection at a time." From within their shared consciousness, Kurama observed with growing amazement as Naruto reached Nagato not through superior power, but through genuine empathy, the culmination of their perfect partnership allowing him to see beyond immediate conflict to the wounded human beneath. "Your words, they're just like his book," Nagato finally acknowledged, referring to Jiraiya's first novel, the tale of the utterly gutsy shinobi, whose protagonist had been Naruto's namesake. Perhaps there is another path. In a final act that shocked even Conan, Nagato performed Rinne Rebirth, a technique that at the cost of his own life restored all those killed during his attack on Konoha. As his life faded, he entrusted his dream of peace to Naruto, acknowledging him as the child of prophecy that Jiraiya had sought. "You possess what I lost," Nagato said with his final breath. The ability to believe in humanity despite knowing its darkest nature. The aftermath of Pain's assault brought profound changes. Though buildings could be rebuilt, the psychological impact of the attack, and of Naruto's pivotal role in ending it, transformed how the village viewed their Jinchuriki. Once feared and ostracized, Naruto was now celebrated as Konoha's hero, the one who had not only defeated Pain, but somehow converted him, bringing back the fallen through the enemy's own sacrifice. Sasuke, who had observed the battle from the village outskirts, found his own perspective shifting. The brother he had hated, then mourned, had sacrificed everything for peace, just as Nagato ultimately had. The parallels were impossible to ignore. "What will you do now?" Naruto asked him quietly as they stood atop the Hokage monument, surveying the reconstruction efforts below. "I don't know," Sasuke admitted, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "Everything I believed was wrong. My entire life was built around a revenge that should never have been." "Then build something new," Naruto suggested. "Something worthy of Itachi's sacrifice. Not vengeance, but protection. Not hatred, but understanding." Before Sasuke could respond, a new crisis emerged. Danzo Shimura, exploiting the power vacuum created by Tsunade's coma, a result of exhausting her chakra healing villagers during Pain's attack, had been appointed acting Hokage and immediately called for a 5 Kage summit to address the Akatsuki threat. "This is dangerous," Naruto warned the village elders when he learned of the appointment. "Danzo has his own agenda, one that involved acquiring Sasuke's eyes and eliminating anyone who knows the truth about the Uchiha massacre." "You overstep, Jinchuriki," Elder Koharu replied coldly. "Danzo has served Konoha from the shadows for decades. His methods may be unorthodox, but his loyalty is unquestionable." "Is it?" Naruto challenged. "Ask yourselves why he maintained a private army outside the Hokage's authority. Why he collaborated with Orochimaru on illegal experiments. Why he ordered the elimination of the Uchiha clan without exhausting diplomatic options first." Though the elders dismissed his concerns, Kakashi and several Jounin took them seriously enough to investigate further. What they discovered: evidence of Danzo's collaboration with Madara Uchiha during certain periods, experiments to implant multiple Sharingan into his arm, and plans to place all Jinchuriki under his direct control, was damning. By the time Danzo departed for the Five Kage Summit in the Land of Iron, Naruto had made a difficult decision. Without official authorization, he would follow the acting Hokage and ensure that the truth about Konoha's darkest secrets didn't die with those who knew it. This is technically insubordination, Kakashi warned as Naruto prepared to leave, though his tone suggested he wasn't entirely opposed to the plan. Sometimes protecting the village means protecting it from itself, Naruto replied, words that echoed the third Hokage's own philosophy. Danzo represents Konoha's shadow, necessary perhaps, but dangerous when it tries to become the whole. The Land of Iron, neutral territory governed by samurai rather than shinobi, provided the setting for the most significant political gathering since the founding of the Hidden Villages. Representatives from all 5 major villages, Konoha, Suna, Kyumo, Iwa, and Kiri, convened to discuss the Akatsuki threat. Naruto arrived discreetly, using a perfect transformation technique enhanced by Kurama's chakra to observe without being detected. What he witnessed was political theater at its most dangerous. Danzo manipulating the proceedings, the Raikage demanding action against Akatsuki, and tensions between villages threatening to erupt into open conflict. The summit descended into chaos when a masked figure appeared, declaring himself to be Madara Uchiha. His announcement shocked the assembled leaders. The true purpose of gathering the Bijou was to recreate the Ten Tails, become its Jinchuriki, and cast the infinite Tsukuyomi, a Jinjutsu that would ensnare the entire world in an illusory peace. The Fourth Shinobi World War begins now, the masked man declared. Surrender the remaining Jinchuriki or face annihilation. The Kage refused unanimously, their previous disagreements forgotten in the face of this existential threat. As they prepared to confront Madara directly, Naruto made his presence known, golden chakra dissolving his disguise as he stepped forward. "You're not Madara," he stated confidently, addressing the masked figure. "You're Obito Uchiha, Kakashi's former teammate, believed dead during the Third Shinobi War." The declaration sent shockwaves through the assembly. The masked man went perfectly still, killing intent radiating from him in waves. "How could you possibly know that?" he demanded, his previously confident voice now tight with suppressed emotion. "Kurama remembers," Naruto explained calmly. "He was controlled by your Sharingan twice. Once when you extracted him from my mother during my birth, and again when you used him to attack Konoha. The chakra signature is the same, though altered by Hashirama cells that now compose half your body. The revelation of Madara's true identity changed the dynamic completely. The assembled Kage, already united against a common enemy, now had crucial intelligence about their adversary's abilities and potential weaknesses. "This changes nothing," Obito snarled, recovering his composure. "The Eye of the Moon plan proceeds regardless of what name you call me. The Bijou will be collected. The Ten Tails will be reborn. And this world of endless suffering will be replaced by perfect illusion. An illusion is still an illusion, no matter how perfect," Naruto countered. "True peace can't be forced through Jinjutsu. It must be built through understanding and cooperation, the kind we're demonstrating right now." He gestured to the Kage, historic enemies now standing together against a common threat. "Look around you, Obito. For the first time since the Hidden Villages were founded, the 5 Kage are united, not in fear but in choice. That's the beginning of real change." The confrontation that followed was brief but intense. Obito, recognizing that he was outnumbered by the combined might of 5 Kage and a perfect Jinchuriki, retreated after declaring that the Fourth Shinobi World War had officially begun. In his wake, something unprecedented happened. The formation of the allied shinobi forces, a united army drawn from all 5 major villages. "The Jinchuriki must be protected at all costs," the Raikage declared, "especially the Nine Tails, whose power appears to be uniquely developed. I won't be hidden away while others fight," Naruto stated firmly. "Kurama and I can contribute more on the battlefield than in any shelter." The boy is right. Inoki, the elderly Tsuchikage, acknowledged reluctantly. "I've lived through 3 shinobi world wars, and I've never seen a Jinchuriki with such perfect control. He's a weapon we cannot afford to sideline." Ultimately, a compromise was reached. Naruto would join the allied forces, but with special protections and tactical deployment to maximize his effectiveness while minimizing risk of capture. The remaining Jinchuriki, Killer Bee of Kumobikure, who hosted the Eight Tails, would join him, forming an unprecedented Bijou fighting unit. The months that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. Villages that had been enemies for generations now trained together, sharing techniques and strategies. Naruto and Bee formed an immediate bond, their shared experiences as Jinchuriki creating a foundation of understanding that transcended village boundaries. Yo, Nine Tails kid got skills, no lie, makes me want to cry. Tears of joy, oh boy. Bee rapped during one of their joint training sessions. Naruto laughed, genuine affection for the eccentric Kyumo shinobi evident. Kurama says Gyuki always had questionable taste in partners, but he approves of you. Gyuki? That's Ada-OS name? Dope. My partner's been holding out, no doubt. The exchange of knowledge between perfect Jinchuriki was invaluable. Though Bee had achieved harmony with his Bijou through different means, the result was similar. Complete access to the Eight Tails' power without the traditional risks of losing control. Meanwhile, Sasuke had made his own decision. After confronting Danzo during the chaos following the Five Kage Summit and learning the full extent of Root's involvement in the Uchiha Massacre, he had chosen to ally himself with Konoha again. Not out of forgiveness, but from a recognition that Obito's plan threatened everything his brother had died to protect. I still don't trust the village leadership, he told Naruto bluntly as they prepared for war. But I trust you, and I won't let Itachi's sacrifice be for nothing. When the allied shinobi forces finally mobilized against Akatsuki's army, a horrifying force of white Zetsu clones and reanimated shinobi legends controlled by Kabuto's enhanced impure world resurrection technique. It was the largest military operation in shinobi history. 5 divisions, each specialized for different combat scenarios, moved in precise coordination against an enemy that seemed numberless. Naruto, contrary to traditional military doctrine that would keep the Jinchuriki protected in the rear, served as a mobile response unit, appearing wherever the fighting was most desperate. With his perfect sensory abilities, he could identify battlefields in crisis across vast distances, teleporting through Kurama's chakra to turn the tide of seemingly hopeless engagements. The white Zetsu are vulnerable to Bijou chakra, he explained to the commanders after his first engagements. Their artificial bodies destabilize when exposed to it. I can clear entire battalions with a single chakra wave. More challenging were the reanimated legends, former Kage, famous clan leaders, and even Naruto's own parents, Minato and Kushina, torn from peaceful afterlife to fight against their will. These encounters tested not just Naruto's power, but his emotional resilience. The reunion with his parents on the battlefield was bittersweet. Though controlled by Kabuto's jutsu, their personalities remained intact, allowing for a conversation Naruto had never expected to have. "You've surpassed everything we hoped for," Minato told him, pride evident despite the circumstances. A perfect Jinchuriki, working in harmony with Kurama. "We always believed you could do it," Kushina added, her violet eyes shimmering with emotions that even the resurrection jutsu couldn't suppress. "My little boy, all grown up and changing the world." Together, they shared techniques and knowledge before Naruto regretfully sealed them using a special Fuin jutsu he developed specifically for countering the impure world resurrection. As they faded back to the afterlife, his parents' final words stayed with him. "We've always loved you, and we always will. Make your own path to peace, Naruto." The war's turning point came when Obito, having collected fragments of chakra from the captured Bijou, transformed into an incomplete Ten Tails Jinchuriki. The power was immense but unstable, allowing the allied forces a narrow window of opportunity to counter before he achieved perfect transformation. On a battlefield devastated by preliminary clashes, Naruto stood before the assembled might of the allied shinobi forces, tens of thousands of ninja from all villages united against extinction. Beside him stood his most trusted comrades, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Gaara, Bee, and shinobi from across the 5 nations who had fought alongside him. "What we face isn't just an enemy, but an idea," he addressed them, his voice carrying across the assembled army. "The idea that peace can only come through control and illusion." that humanity is too flawed to build a better world through choice and understanding. Golden chakra began to emanate from him, growing in intensity as he continued. But look around you. Shinobi who once fought each other now stand shoulder to shoulder. Villages that were enemies for generations now share a common purpose. If we can change, so can the world. With a surge of power that illuminated the battlefield like a second sun, Naruto entered his perfected form. Kurama Chakra mode enhanced with sage energy, 9 truth-seeking orbs hovering behind him. The transformation was so complete that for a moment, it seemed as though the actual 9-tailed fox stood among them, though radiating protective warmth rather than malevolence. "I can share Kurama's chakra with all of you," he announced, extending his hands. "Not just his power, but his protection. Together, we'll show Obito that real peace comes not from running from reality, but from facing it together." What followed was unprecedented in shinobi history. Naruto channeling Kurama's virtually unlimited chakra into thousands of allied shinobi simultaneously, creating a network of golden energy that connected the entire army. Each soldier found their abilities enhanced, their chakra replenished, and most remarkably, their consciousness lightly linked, allowing for perfect tactical coordination. The battle against the incomplete Ten Tails Jinchuriki was cataclysmic. Obito wielded powers not seen since the Sage of Six Paths, manipulating the fundamental forces of reality itself. Mountains crumbled, seas boiled, and the very fabric of space bent under the pressure of techniques exchanged. Yet for all his power, Obito faced something he hadn't calculated. Not just Naruto's raw strength, but the perfect synchronization of an entire army moving with shared purpose. Their attacks coordinated with impossible precision through the chakra network Naruto maintained. The final confrontation took place in a dimension of Obito's creation, where only those with the most powerful dojutsu or bijou connections could follow. Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, and Sakura found themselves facing their former comrade in a barren landscape of floating cubes and impossible geometry. "Can't you see?" Obito demanded as he defended against their coordinated assault. "This world is irredeemable, an endless cycle of children sent to die in wars started by old men, dreams crushed under the weight of reality. The infinite Tsukuyomi is mercy compared to this existence." "You're wrong," Naruto countered, golden chakra clashing against Obito's corrupted Ten Tails power. "Reality can be harsh, but it's also where true connections exist. Joy, love, friendship. They're meaningful precisely because they're earned in a world that contains pain." As they fought, Naruto did something unexpected. Rather than simply attacking, he used Kurama's chakra to connect with the fragments of the bijou trapped within Obito. One by one, he reached their consciousnesses, calling them by their true names: Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Koko, Saiken, Komi-ai, and Gyuki. "Remember who you are," he called to them. "You're not just weapons or chakra sources. You're beings with your own wills, created by the Sage of Six Paths with unique purposes." The bijou, hearing their names spoken with respect perhaps for the first time since the Sage's era, began to resist Obito's control from within. Their chakra, previously merged into the corrupted Ten Tails energy, started to separate, weakening Obito's transformation. The moment of truth came when Naruto, supported by Sasuke's Sharingan creating an opening, managed to place his hand directly on Obito's chest. Rather than delivering a killing blow, he used the most difficult technique he had ever attempted, the compassionate separation seal, designed to divide the bijou chakra from its unwilling host without killing either. "This isn't about defeating you," Naruto said as the seal activated, golden light spreading across Obito's body. "It's about saving everyone, including you." The process was excruciating for both of them. As the bijou chakra separated from Obito, Naruto experienced each of their memories simultaneously. Centuries of being used, feared, passed from one Jinchuriki to another, never acknowledged as sentient beings with their own dignity. At the same time, he felt Obito's pain, the crushed body, the lost love, the manipulations of the real Madara that had turned an idealistic boy into a nihilistic man. When the separation completed, Obito collapsed, his body returning to its half-white, half-human form, while 8 distinct chakra entities hovered around Naruto. Free for the first time, in generations. You freed them. Obito gasped, disbelief evident in his voice. Without killing me. Why? Because killing you wouldn't break the cycle of hatred. Naruto replied simply. Only understanding can do that. What Naruto couldn't anticipate was that the real Madara Uchiha, having planned for this contingency, had embedded a piece of his will within the Ten Tails chakra. As the Bijou separated, this fragment activated, allowing Madara to resurrect himself fully using the Rinne rebirth technique through Obito's body. The true final battle had only just begun. Madara Uchiha, now fully restored to life and quickly absorbing the scattered Bijou, presented a threat far greater than Obito had been. Unlike his protege, Madara had no lingering attachments to humanity, no potential for redemption through emotional connection. His vision of the infinite Tsukuyomi was pure in its terrible simplicity, a world of dreams to replace a reality he deemed irredeemable. You've merely delayed the inevitable, Madara declared as he completed his transformation into the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, his body glowing with otherworldly power. I'm a second sage of six paths now. No force in this world can stand against me. No single force, perhaps, Naruto acknowledged, standing firm despite the overwhelming pressure of Madara's chakra. But we've never been fighting alone. Around him gathered the most powerful shinobi of the generation. Sasuke with his evolved Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Sakura with her perfect chakra control and monstrous strength, Kakashi wielding Obito's gifted Sharingan, and the five Kage, each bringing their village's strongest techniques to bear. Most significantly, the freed Bijou, though weakened, had chosen to ally themselves with Naruto, recognizing in him the same spirit of cooperation that had characterized their creator, the original sage of six paths. We recognize you, Naruto Uzumaki, rumbled Son Goku, the four-tailed monkey, not as our master, but as our friend. The first human since the sage to see us as more than weapons. The final battle transcended traditional combat. As Madara wielded the power to reshape reality itself, Naruto and his allies fought not just with jutsu, but with the fundamental principle the Ten Tails Jinchuriki couldn't comprehend. The strength that comes from genuine bonds between autonomous beings choosing to work together. When Madara unleashed the infinite Tsukuyomi, bathing the world in the light of a red moon that threatened to ensnare all humanity in eternal illusion, it was Naruto and Sasuke, working in perfect tandem, who created a protective barrier around the remaining allied forces. Naruto's Bijou chakra merged with Sasuke's Susanoo, forming a shield that the corrupted light couldn't penetrate. The conclusion came not through superior firepower, but through something more profound. During their battle, Naruto managed to connect directly with the consciousness still embedded within the Ten Tails, Kagaya Otsutsuki, the primal entity from whom all chakra originated, and mother to the sage of six paths himself. You've been used, Naruto communicated to her as their consciousnesses briefly merged. Madara believes he controls the Ten Tails, but he's triggered your resurrection. Your sons sealed you because your power corrupted you, made you fear humanity rather than nurture it. The connection created a moment of instability in Madara's control, enough for Sasuke to strike with a technique specifically designed to separate Bijou from Jinchuriki. As Madara's transformation began to collapse, the original sage of six paths himself appeared, a spectral presence summoned by the unique convergence of his son's reincarnated chakra in Naruto and Sasuke. My sons, the sage addressed them, his ringed eyes solemn. Azura and Indra, reborn again and again throughout history, always in conflict. Until now, with the sage's guidance, Naruto and Sasuke performed the six paths, planetary devastation sealing technique, capturing both Madara and the emerging Kagaya before she could fully manifest. The seal, requiring perfect synchronization between Naruto's six paths Yang power and Sasuke's six paths Yin power, created a new moon that would contain the primal goddess for eternity. As the sealing completed, a profound silence fell across the battlefield. The war that had threatened all humanity was over, won not by a single hero, but by unprecedented cooperation between former enemies. In the months that followed, the allied shinobi forces evolved into a permanent council, with representatives from all five major villages working to maintain the cooperation that had saved the world. The Bijou, now free and recognized as sentient beings rather than weapons, formed a covenant with humanity. They would remain independent but allied with the shinobi world, with Naruto serving as their ambassador. Sasuke, his path of vengeance finally exhausted, chose to wander the world, seeking redemption through understanding the reality his brother had died to protect. Though he and Naruto remained connected through their shared experience as the reincarnations of Indra and Azura, they had broken the cycle of conflict that had defined their spiritual predecessors for generations. Naruto himself became a different kind of leader than anyone had anticipated. Rather than immediately pursuing the Hokage position, he established himself as a bridge between nations, villages, and peoples, human and Bijou alike. His perfect synchronization with Kurama gave him a unique perspective that transcended traditional shinobi politics. The old systems were built on fear and separation. He explained during the formation of the Shinobi Union, a revolutionary diplomatic body that included all major and minor villages. Village competed against village, country against country, humans against Bijou. But we've seen what's possible when we cooperate. The challenge now is maintaining that cooperation without the pressure of an existential threat. 5 years after the war's end, Naruto finally accepted the position of Hokage, though the role had evolved significantly. No longer simply the military leader of a hidden village, the Hokage now served as one of 5 equal leaders in the Shinobi Union, working collectively to maintain peace across the continent. On the day of his inauguration, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, the faces of his predecessors carved into the stone below him. Beside him stood his closest friends and allies, Sakura, now head of Konoha's revolutionary medical program, Shikamaru, his chief advisor, Kakashi, the previous Hokage who had guided the village through post-war reconstruction, and many others who had walked the long path with him. Within their shared mindscape, Kurama observed with something approaching satisfaction, from a feared weapon to the architect of a new era. Not bad for a loudmouthed brat who couldn't even create a proper clone at the academy. Naruto's mental laugh was warm with affection. We've both come a long way from where we started. From enemies to reluctant allies to true partners. Partners, Kurama agreed, the word carrying the weight of their shared journey. Though I still think orange is a ridiculous color for a shinobi. As Naruto gazed out at the village, rebuilt, renewed, and fundamentally transformed, he reflected on the cyclical nature of the world. The cycle of hatred that had defined shinobi history for generations hadn't been broken by a single dramatic victory, but through countless small choices to understand rather than fear, to connect rather than separate, to protect rather than destroy. The perfect Jinchuriki, once an impossible dream, now the symbol of what could be achieved when ancient enemies chose partnership over conflict, stood as living proof that the most powerful transformation wasn't of jutsu or chakra, but of hearts and minds. In that transformation lay the true legacy of Naruto, Uzumaki, and Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. Not the power they wielded, but the example they set of what became possible when understanding replaced fear. And in a world built on cycles, perhaps that example would echo forward, generation after generation, creating ripples of change that would continue long after both man and fox had returned to the great flow of chakra from which all life emerged. For now, though, they had a village to lead, a union to strengthen, and a future to build. Together, as they had been since that moment in the Valley of the End when a boy had chosen understanding over force, and a fox had glimpsed, for the first time in millennia, the possibility of a different kind of existence. Perfect partners, perfect Jinchuriki, and perhaps, in their harmonious duality, a perfect example of what the shinobi world could become.
In another life, Kurama was just a weapon, a force of destruction. But in this story, he was something more. A mentor, a memory, a mirror of pain and the path beyond it. And Naruto, he didn't just survive the burden, he understood it. Maybe monsters just need someone to believe in them. If this story meant something to you, let it sit with you. And if you're still here after all this time, your fam quietly is back, and the timeline is only just beginning. Like, comment, subscribe if you're still with us. Stay quiet, but never silent.